don't know if I really love this decision.
Over the middle, got his man, and look at him go! Jalen Waddle for the touchdown!
Welcome to Inside Leverage, your gateway to the fascinating realm of the Miami Dolphins. Join us as we delve deep into the team's dynamic Super Bowl journey. We invite you to share your most scorching takes, unwind, and relish in our captivating experience.
Tunga Bailoa, blocked by Armstead. Going, he's got him! He's got him! Tyreek Hill! And the Dolphins have come back!
A big play on the first one! Home run! Play one! To the house! What a start for the Dolphins!
It's Inside Leverage. We always gonna put on the show, baby. That's what we do.
Welcome, everybody. What's popping? Talk to me.
What's going on, brother?
It's Tuesday, man. One day removed from Monday, your favorite day of the week.
Yeah, man. Another positional coach firing. The crew is here.
The guru's here.
Who?
Oh, he said the guru. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
The guru.
Yeah.
Guru.
You know what I'm saying?
Guru.
Don't hate. We can't all be gurus, man.
Right.
I'm the guru. It's okay, bro. Just respect the technique.
You're the guru? Okay. Whatever.
I
Sure.
never forget they tried to treat me like Zach Sealer.
Oh my God.
I
Here we
never
go.
forget they tried to treat me like
come
Zach
Come
Sealer.
on, come on, cut it.
Get out of here with that.
You're not tired?
Now because he had a better season, y'all ain't got nothing to say. Okay.
Oh, by one sack. Happened. It's so great.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
I hope that's not how Christian Watkins going to the negotiation.
First of all, who is Christian Watkins?
Yes,
so
correct.
hopefully he doesn't go.
He's a new UDFA that we're getting. Christian Watkins.
It's a new guy. It's a new
He's
guy.
the new guy. Yeah, he's the new guy.
He's a rookie free agent.
What's going on, man? What's going on, y'all boys?
French over here with his diva mentality. You already see him. Every time he's out here being a diva. Where's Chadwick?
I'm over here doing my research, man, looking at these guys, man, looking at these new additions to the team, looking at the new DC, looking at and listening to a lot of what people have said about them. I mean, I'm pretty hyped. You had that guy Jerry Sandusky on with Joe Rose a couple of days ago and just talking about just kind of the character of the DC and just he galvanizes, man. And just one of the things he was just saying, like he makes it like almost like it like I kind of took away that he said his defenses play fast. So I like how we get that output from the offense. If we were getting that from our defense and key positions, I mean, listen, what more can you ask for? Go ahead, Coach.
I'm good. I'm letting you ride.
No, that's a good point. Fast, physical. That's what we want. We want to be bullies, right, French? So I think that's what I'm so excited about. That we're bringing that mentality coming from the Ravens. We got it firsthand. The physicalness, the aggressiveness. Being together as one. So that's what I'm looking for this coming season with our defense.
Well, I feel like the overall. I forget how they said it on the show where Baltimore's scheme and mentality is different from Miami's scheme and mentality. So it's kind of made me evolve my thinking with the tough and like I don't want to be nobody. I don't want to replicate what somebody else got. I want to have the pillars of success and mold my brand around it. So if we have our own brand of physicalness, our own brand of defense that we play kind of like what we created with the offense, that puts us in a great position to succeed on the defensive side of the ball.
I mean, I agree with you. I'm tired of being a non-physical team when it comes to defense, man. Offense, team period. So I hope that's what we get from Weaver. To me, one of the main caveats is that he's developmental. He's gonna develop the kids and whatever that too. But physicalness, you're not gonna come over here and run the ball on us. That's the mentality we need to have. We're gonna make it one-dimensional team. We're gonna impose our will on you. That is stuff that we haven't seen here in a long time on either side of the ball. So that's a breath of fresh air. If you have if you have a run game coordinator on the offense and a run game coordinator on the defense, you know that they kind of see the same things in the field, so they could align. And then I like how this is meshing out for us, and the way Weaver speaks and the way the results have shown. We haven't, and let's not forget Barry, because Barry's a great hire. That Barry got a hire for the linebackers.
Is it safe to say with Weaver we could see a jump in Holland's performance this next season, like a real jump? Because honestly, he kind of regressed this. I don't want to say regressed, but he had injuries that was nagging him, so he just didn't look Holland-esque.
I think Holland would be helpful having linebackers, and if we would have had a better group of linebackers, the safety won't have to be doing a lot of extra things. And if we would have had a consistent play out of our strong safety, Holland would have been free too, and better play from our nickel. Like he was a quarterback. He was overextending himself. It was too much. So I think if we get better, consistent play for linebacker, I think the sky's the limit with Javon Holland. But what I'm looking forward to is if Barry could get something out of Tyndall. If Tyndall could be my A.J. Jackson this year. That's where I'm at.
Let me ask you this, mechanic, really quick. With the jump we seen from the offensive line, what jump? How does if the linebacking core make the same jump that the offensive line made from what we were wanting, what does that look like on the defensive side of the ball?
It helps in protecting that middle of the field. It doesn't allow nothing in that middle part where the crossers have been an issue with us. You know, guys changing from one, like making sure I'm gonna pass this guy to you and I got this guy. The reactions will be better, and I think that's what's gonna be exciting about Weaver and having Joe Barry come into this defense, just to teach those guys, understand how to read and react, understand how to be aggressive. I know you mentioned that you don't want to be like the Ravens, but of course we're going to be our own. We're going to have our own style of brand of defense, but he's bringing that attitude of physical toughness and aggressiveness and bully mentality. You incorporate that with our style of defense, we're cooking with fish grease. So I think having those guys come in and improving that linebacking core, especially to the young guys, that's going to help us protect the middle field. And then we got the guys on the outside with the cornerbacks and DBs that are going to do their job. So that's covering the whole entire field almost. And that's going to allow the defensive line to get some time to rush and to eventually sack that quarterback.
That's the old man, bro. The old man has been here for 75 plus.
That's what I was going to say.
How do you feel about these hiring, old man?
To me, listen, the most important thing is going to be player development. And why do I say that? Because we're coming into an age, or I should say an age, a portion of this build where our draft picks are going to have to start producing and contributing at a high level. So the draft is going to be very important. Coaching those players up is going to be very important because, like I've mentioned ad nauseum on here with you guys and in other places, the draft, you can't pay everybody. We're going to have to come up. We're coming up. We're going to have to pay Tua. Those other players are going to be coming up that are going to be, that are important pieces to our team that we're going to have to pay. And I really don't want to lose these guys. There's some that you can afford to lose. There's some that you just say, hey, I got to let this guy go because we have too many. We have these newly created holes or holes that we have, other guys that are contracts are coming up that we got to pay. So you're going to have to sacrifice and let somebody go that you want to, that's going to hurt, that you want to keep. But how you fix that and how you remedy that is by drafting well and or developing the young guys that are coming in to be able to fill these spots to where you don't have to spend big on free agency to, fill the holes that have been created. So I think that's the onus on them. I think it was clear with Mike's opening, his statement once the hiring was official of Weaver, that he was looking forward to the development of the young guys, which I know it's been out there. It might be a little dig to the outgoing DC, which I tend to agree. But and a lot of other things that have happened as far as coaches being blocked and XYZ that our old DC wants to take with him to Philadelphia. So there was definitely some bad blood there. But anyway, not to type off the topic too much, I think it's going to be huge. Their jobs are going to be huge in developing and getting these pieces, to round out the roster and to become a successful franchise.
To piggyback off that, man, we got to get picks. So there's only but so many players here in our roster as it's constructed that'll get you picks that you could kind of like move off from. And I start by the obvious elephant in the room, which would be Christian Wilkins.
Right.
Also, a guy that a lot of people might think is a joke, but I think Liam Eichenberg could get you picks. Liam Eichenberg could get you a fourth or a fifth rounder and during draft day. Yes, you think no, but yes, he's a formidable starter and he's a versatile starter at the offensive line. Somebody will give you a fourth or a fifth for Liam.
No, that's true. All it takes is one team. That's true.
Specifically, being given his pedigree and on draft day,
and he's a center, a starting center.
Yes, you could definitely get a fifth or fourth rounder from him.
Look how the Commanders were talking about Dieter when we let him go.
Oh, now you're gonna take my take. You're gonna take
not the Commanders, the Texans.
The Texans.
Yeah, but listen, Greer was talking about. I remember the last year that he was here, he was talking about his press conferences. Hey, I'm fielding calls for this guy, and a lot of people laughed at that.
He never played, and he never played.
I remember that.
Here's my thing. I agree. He can field you picks. It's not something I don't know if they will do because you're just adding another hole to your depth. Yes, he's a starter. I don't look at him as a starter. I look at him as a quality depth guy that has starter experience. So yes, you can trade Liam. I just make sure you go and draft someone that's going to replace him. And I like the centers here in this draft, and I think most of them, if not all, are above, better than him. But with his experience on this roster, on this system, will they do it? We'll see. But if that happens, definitely we got to make sure we go get a guy in the draft or in free agency. So
I'm just saying the guys that have any trade value to get those picks, like we don't have too many of those with favorable contracts. So Leo,
hey, listen, you know who can get you something? Seti.
Ogba and Seti.
No, they won't.
Seti's off a contract. No, he's not gonna. He's not. Yeah.
The only guys that are
wait. Who's not? Wait. Yeah, you're right.
So the only guys that are under contract that you want to get crazy, Jerome Baker, David Howard, but they're not going to give you money for. They're going to pay those contracts. So you have to think about the actuality of the game is either Christian Wilkins via tag and trade or whatever it is, and Liam Eichenberg because somebody falls in love with him and you make them available to see what you get. And given what we have 6 draft picks as constructed, I would love to somehow make that 10.
I was gonna say like 9
or 10,
right?
So you can get 5 starters out of that. Not 5 starters, but 5 contributors. You know what I mean?
It is attractive to do it now with Liam because it is the last year of his deal, and you kind of want to, he's shown he can be versatile. He's shown he can play quality minutes as a starter for a depth guy. So it is attractive.
You might get
yeah. So his value was a second as a draft pick, and Maybe he could get a third or fourth, maybe a fifth between those.
I mean, give me a 5 or a 6 for Seti.
Nah, we ain't gonna get nothing for Seti, but we might get a third for Liam. I'm thinking third, fourth, fifth for Liam. He
3 to 5, yeah.
Yeah, 3 to 5. He's played enough for that. He was a second round draft pick. Is highly touted, and he finally showing that he was actually an NFL starter. There's a team out there that might pay for it. They might regret it at the end of the day, but we ain't. I'm just saying. And also, we might be just like McCann said. We might be reluctant to do it because he's our backup center. He might be our starting center if we sign Liam or we don't draft someone and see what's happening with Olave. So you don't really, you know what I mean? So they might be hesitant to do it, but if they do it, and they draft a little son, you feel me? Son in the field. I'm talking about that. Somebody you could stack over for 2 years and still have him learn with Connor when Connor comes back. It might work. I need draft picks. We need to get 10 players, 10 new players. We need bodies, man. This team has to have a high turnover.
I need guys with higher upside. I need guys like we've plateaued with a lot of these guys, and that's kind of my mentality and why I'm okay with moving on from some guys, even some guys that were key starters, because like once I feel we've plateaued and we've gotten the squeeze out of that lemon or that orange or that apple, like at this point, like let's go level up, because you just never know. One of these young dogs could come in, you get the right capital and might be able to show you something.
So here, hey, real quick. So Cedric Wilson has a 3-year 22, so he has a potential out this coming off season.
Is it team option or is it player option?
It could be team option, but he's also unrestricted free agent. So there's like some money.
Because if he's team option, I'll mess around and sign him and keep him on and flip him. But if it's player option, he's gonna opt out because he's gonna get paid more than that. I think we could ask Chad Kuiper to join the show. Chad, we were just talking about players.
What's up, Chad?
We might be able to move for like some trade capital. We mentioned Liam Eichenberg. We mentioned Christian Wilkins situation. We're trying to see if there's a possibility to do it with Cedric. Because the obvious names, you're not going to get nothing for X. You're not going to get nothing for Jerome Baker. You're not going to get nothing for those guys. So they have to be post-June. So we're trying to see where we could create cap. I mean, cap and draft picks.
I mean, if we're going to be real, bro, like, there's not a lot of guys on this current roster that you could get capital in return for. If you could tag and trade Wilkins, maybe that's a scenario in which maybe you can get something back for. Offensively, I don't see any pieces. Like, I don't see anybody trading for Cedric Wilson. Maybe in the last year of that deal, after what he did last year, maybe you could get something later round. You know what I mean? On the defensive side of the ball, Jerome Baker's contract's too spicy. Xavier Howard's contract's too spicy. No one's taking on Ogba's deal. Like, I don't see anything attractive. Like, ain't no one moving Sealer or anything like that, or Holland or anything that we want to keep. So as far as the pieces that we're willing to move off of, I don't see anything that can net you anything in return significant.
So it looks like there's some void money. The void money is the same as the dead cap. You can get out of him, but then it's saying that he's also an unrestricted free agent this year.
So that's probably just a dummy year on the end of the contract used to spread out the hits.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh yeah, that makes sense. So so it's $1 million for the signing, and then 1.5 for the restructure, and it looked like it made the 2.5 dead cap.
So he doesn't have a roster bonus or something like that. He doesn't have a roster.
Nah.
Wow.
So he's pretty much a free agent. That's the void years are the cap hit.
But then realistically, I know it's a deep cut, but when you talk about the X and the Baker and the Wilkins, you get that money off the books and you take whatever dead cap you take, you still have flexibility to kind of remake and retool and really get a group of guys that you can develop. Because right now, I don't want to have the illusion that player development is going to be a 3-year thing, because we've seen guys come into the league year one, and I'm not saying that a 5th round is going to come in and be a starter.
But you can.
But you right. So even in player development, you can see leaps along the way. So listen, man, let's run it up, man.
That's why I want 10 draft picks because I want 5 starters minimum.
I was gonna say
5 to 6 contributors. You know what I mean? Like, we got okay. We need to have our people out here. We need to get 5 guys that are gonna help this team. Whether it's in the and you know me, I'm with you, Frank. We need dogs in the trenches. I'm going trenches first. I'm sorry. I don't care if even if you go with the homie that y'all love at the center at the first pick. I want to go trenches the first 2 picks. And if you come around and get something else, give me a big boy tight end. You know what I'm saying? But
center, DT, tight end, and then go swing
a guard tackle. Give me my guard tackle. Give me a little something. Give me start a move. And we need some linebackers. We need
long as we come out with 2 offensive linemen, a linebacker. I would love to come out with 2 offensive linemen, 2 linebackers, realistically, because like I said, look at what we've been yearning for from the offense.
We need a wide receiver.
But no, but I'm talking specifically the offensive line. We
need a wide receiver.
No, but let's take it back to the original crux of the Dolphins was fixing the offensive line, right? The offensive line was broken. We somewhat fixed that offensive line, and Barry and those guys have fixed and retooled that offensive line. If we get that same fix at the linebacker position, that's going to help so much more when it talks about third down, when it talks about stopping the run, when it talks about getting off the field on third down. Like, we got to get that production we got out of the offense of line. And look, it happened in 1 year. 1.5, 1 year really. So
but
look, go give me some young dogs.
I think we can get some linebacker dogs out here off free agency. I think we can find the linebackers in free agency and trustworthy dogs and for cheap labor. That's why I want to get the money off Christian Wilkins off here, for we could spread that in a couple linebackers and maybe go get you a safety. Maybe get you a nice little safety that's a nice piece that you could, and then you could free up Javon Holland. Let Javon Holland cook. Then you can find you. We need versatility and flexibility with young players. You get you $22 million off the books or whatever you're gonna get Christian Wilkins. You get 4 or 5 safeties, dog. Not a lot, no 4 or 5, but 4 or 5 players. You get your defensive tackle, get you another couple edge rushers, get you a couple linebackers, get you a couple depth pieces that also help Dan Crossman since he's staying here. Get him some guys that can play special teams. We need to rebuild this roster. We're so top heavy and it's all names: Ogba, Wilkins, Xavier Howard. After those, Jalen Ryan. After those names, bro, we need a wide receiver. After Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, who's out there wide receiver? Easy E. We need a lot, bro. We don't even have a pass catching tight end.
Hey, man.
So here's the current draft that we have. So we got a first round 21, second round 53, which is, I think that's a good spot because there's some centers or some guys that you can get here. Fifth round 155, sixth round 186, another 6 199, and then a 7 239. Those are your draft picks currently.
What slots? What slots in the round are they? You know what I'm saying? Like in the second round, you're going 53. So what? That's what, like 13th in the second round. If we break it down, because it ends at what 30? It's 20. What?
So 30. It ends at 32, but 53 32. Is a good. Yeah. So
that's 21 again. It's 21.
Yeah, but if you count it, if you count it with the how it's structured, 53 is a good area for a couple of guys in the second round you might want.
Yeah, so, but my point is that you still in the middle of the draft.
But can you take that first round pick and trade back and get 2 more 2s?
You can, but that's, in my opinion, that's only if your guy that you want is not available.
You know what's better? How about you take that second and trade down and pick up a third and a fifth?
That's a lot of people falling. That's a lot of people losing. I'm thinking more trade.
French, you're gonna have a gap from the second to the fifth. We don't shake nothing in the third or fourth.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing. If you do trade down that second round to like maybe later part of the late second and acquire maybe a third or a fourth, you still can, or third or fifth, you still can get quality centers like Mason McCormick, maybe Zach Frazier, because a lot of teams don't like his measurables, but he's a damn good football player. Cohen, there's a lot of good centers that you can find in the 3 to 5 range, because that's where typically offensive linemen usually fall into anyway. So
the LSU kid, but there's a lot of centers.
It's a lot of good guys around that.
But think of it this way, because and no idea is a wrong idea, but say you take that one, trade it for 2 twos, you have 3 twos at that point. You go get your 3 guys you want, which should be starters, and what you said, you don't have any more to the 5th. You package those 5s up together for a 4, and you come out of there with like 4 really good. I mean,
it's essentially the same thing. You're just basically doing your trade in the first round. To me, I don't care how it is, whether you're doing a first and a second. I just want to be part of the chicken. I don't want to just get the wings. I want to get the whole chicken. You feel me? From the 3rd to the 5th, that's a lot of talent, bro. Specifically in his talent to drive. That's a lot of chicken out there, boy.
Can you guys see that?
But let me ask you this. So then the conversation is, what is the talent that you're picking up with 3 twos? What is the different talent wise for those 3 guys being picked up with those 2 second round picks versus having that first round pick, trading that 2 back for 3s, 4s, and 5s? What is the gap in measurables and what you're getting from?
Because look, if you're moving on to the first round, right? Given our needs specifically, you could say a guard center, a guard tackle, or center guard. If you trade out of the first round and stay within reach in the second round by picking up another middle of the draft pick, you're gonna have your shot at arguably the best of those positions still. Like, he's still gonna be able to get one of the best centers in the draft.
You can still find quality starters and guys that can contribute early. Yeah, you can.
You could find your starting left guard off rip in the second round.
Second round, third round. Like, the guards usually are in the 3rd rounds too. There's quality starters there too. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of guys you can get quality. Usually that's where a lot of people like to want to draft offensive linemen, between those. So, I think it doesn't have to be a first round for the interior or early second. Usually in the mid to later, and then up to 5th, 6th, you'll find some guys. Sometimes in the 6th, it doesn't usually pop up, but you'll find the right guy. And that's because some teams that have been having continuity, they know the type of guy they like, and that fits their system because they've been there for so long, and then it just works out anyway. So,
Coach, can you give us a little bit of a backstory on this?
Yeah. This is just something that I found that kind of makes sense. Not too familiar with the website, but I was just looking at the information while you guys were talking, and I wanted to share it. Actually, you know what, guys? I have we got some good news. We have our first guest on. Let's have a great warm welcome for Mr. Ian Cummings.
What's going on, Mr. Ian? Appreciate
What's going on, guys?
Time on, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Ian, how you doing, man? Welcome.
Doing good. How are you guys?
All right.
Good, man.
So I know some of the people and some of our viewers are not familiar with your work. So the floor is yours. Why don't you give us a little breakdown of what who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are now?
Well, yeah, Ian Cummings, NFL Draft, basically. That's kind of the name of the game this time of year. We got the off season here for all but two teams, right? So it's kind of, it's a long process up until April, but the build-up is great. Free agency, you get to fill in more gaps and kind of figure out what exactly you need. But that's basically my focus through the entire year, right? So during the regular season for college football, I'm watching tape week in and week out, kind of getting an updated view of these guys, right? And then filling out big boards, writing scouting reports. And so now we just had the All-Star circuit, so the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, we had content for that too. The NFL Combine at the tail end of this month. It's going to be more content for that. And then it's just a big ramp up to the NFL Draft and who each team takes. So analyzing those guys is what I do. You can find me at IC_draft on Twitter. Ask me any questions. Hit me up with any draft questions you have, and I'll be happy to answer them. My content you can find at PFN365, Pro Football Network. We got fantasy draft. But this time of year, man, the ramp up to the draft, this is kind of what I live for, right? So I'm always this is kind of my Super Bowl, right? So I love it. I love kind of learning more about these players, and it's still a long way to go.
Hey, Ian. Well, again, thank you so much for coming through. Listen, I'm here with the guru, offensive line guru, Wally, and we just want to know. We know the top heavy guys in the first 2, maybe 3 rounds.
Yeah.
What are your guys that are sleepers that you think can be day 1 stars, or at least contributor depth pieces in the 3rd to 5th, maybe 6th round, in your opinion?
Day 1 starter, I won't commit to the day 1 starter label because I feel like those guys get elevated into round 1 and 2 sometimes, right? It just kind of dictates it, right? Some sleepers that I like at offensive tackle, though. One guy that I really like is Yale's Kieran Amagaji. He wasn't able to participate in the All-Star circuit because he had a quad injury that ended his season prematurely that he needed surgery for, had successful surgery on it. 6'5", 320. He's got almost 36-inch arms. The dude is a mauler. He's super athletic, very, very strong, powerful. You could tell watching FCS tape, he did not belong there, right? He belonged at the FBS level. He really sticks out, but very explosive, very agile, flexible for his size, and actually improved his technical skills this year before he lost to injury. So you don't hear his name a lot. Kieran Amagaji from Yale is one guy that I like. He's got tackle and guard experience too. So very good player. Delmar Glaze from Maryland is another one that I really like. He was at the Senior Bowl this week, a little up and down, but he's got the tools. He's very long. He's very he's got good mass, very compact for his size, good knee bend, lateral mobility is there. Really good pass protector. You want him to kind of improve his power drive as a run blocker. But I think from day 1, if you're looking for a guy who can protect the quarterback and kind of maintain depth of the pocket, Delmar Glaze is definitely a guy. And then one more I'll throw out there. I could take all day if we want to. I could just keep rattling off names. But Roger Rosengarten from Washington is another one that I like a lot. He's a little bit lighter, and the play strength is a little bit, you want him to get stronger. But he's very athletic. The short area explosiveness and recovery flexibility is insane with him. He's got good length, right? Really good combative hand usage and synergy for his age, too. Only a redshirt junior. So natural right tackle, right? So you might have to shift him to left tackle if you want to move him there. But I think the tools are really, really compelling to work with. So a few guys that come to the top of my head, right? I think this is a really deep offensive line class. So whatever you need, different archetypes, different skill sets, this class has it all.
Can I get one more question in? I just need two guards, two center/guard, one that's top 2, and then I had to pull a French a little bit. I had to pull a French. You feel it? I had to. So one that's in the first 2 rounds or first 3, a guard center, and then the last, your 2 guys that you're more keen on this coming draft.
Is that all within the guard center mold? All of that?
Yes.
Just the first one. Okay. I would say in the first 2 rounds, come on, Jackson Powers Johnson, right? That's the first name. Come on, that's a gimme in the first 2 rounds, man. The guy dominated the Senior Bowl.
I'm taking him in the second round, though.
I don't think he's gonna make it to the second round. I don't think he's gonna make it. I think he's just too good, man. He's a top 20 prospect on my board personally. I think, 6'3", 330, moving the way he does, first off. The physical tools are definitely there. But at 21 years old, he's already very refined for his age technically. Again, really good pass blocking synergy, lateral mobility. There was that one rep against his entire Senior Bowl showing was dominant, right? But I think that rep against Michael Hall Jr., Ohio State defensive tackle, really kind of hit the nail on the head for what he brings to the table, matching him athletically, but also maintaining his base, base, right? Keeping a steady base and steady footwork, combating the hand usage, keeping him within his frame. You know, the patience, the precision, right? For such a young player is really impressive. So JPJ, I don't know if he's going to be there in round 2. I think if you're the Dolphins specifically and you really need a center, you might want to consider taking him with that first rounder, right? I think he's worth the capital there. So he's the one in the early rounds. A couple guys that I like in the later rounds. Tanner Bortolini from Wisconsin, probably an early day 3 guy. He's still kind of refining his center skill set because this was his first year, this past year, playing that position full time. He's kind of a guard by nature, but I think if you give him more reps at center, he can start to fall into that. I think he's got really good explosiveness, really good power drive as a run blocker. You ask him to drive guys, plow lanes open, he can do that. Just working with his leverage, right, as a pass blocker, a little bit more work to do there, but I think the tools are absolutely there with him. And then one more that I'll throw out there, I think this is a later round guy. I think round 6, round 7, maybe he goes in round 5. If a team likes him a lot, they could take him a little. Actually, 2 more. Mason McCormick from South Dakota State.
I knew it.
But I really like him. He really showed out at the Shrine Bowl. I would take him early day 3. I really like the tools that he has to work with. And then Bo Limmer from Arkansas, he's a later round guy. He's probably round 6 or round 7 for me personally. But you've got a good frame, good width. I think he plays square very well. I think the leveraging, kind of loading his base and keeping his base beneath him is something that he can improve on. Goes a little upright sometimes, but he's very strong. He's very wide and just a blocky guy who kind of occlude those lanes for defenders. I think you've got a lot of center guard versatility in this class again, which, it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, those are all my guys. Ian, those are all my guys. Loving those guys.
Checking the boxes, man.
Yeah, checking all the boxes there, man. So
he mentioned a real one, which is Rose from Washington.
Rose Garden. Yeah, we were just talking about him not too long ago, man. He showed some tackle versatility. Showed a little bit on both sides. I think there's some there to work with, some good tools. I'm excited about him. So going into this draft, a lot of the focus for us is on Christian Wilkins this offseason on the defensive tackle position. It looks like, he may or may not price himself out of Miami. Who are some guys that you think we could maybe plug in at defensive tackle, and why is it Byron Murphy?
Why is it Byron Murphy, man? I think it's funny. That was the first name I was going to bring up, too. My God. The synergy here, man. I love it. Byron Murphy the second, I think you got to get him with that first rounder if you want him. I don't think he's going to last too far after that, but I do think he's worth it again. He's actually right next to JPJ on my big board. So both top 20 guys, both very much worth the pick. Byron Murphy the second, big fan of his game. Around 6'1", 308, right? But dude is super dense, super compact, twitchy, energetic, high motor guy. Very good run defender. I think that gets lost sometimes because he's so exciting as a pass rusher, right? The instant explosiveness, the lateral agility, the torque in his hands. But as a run blocker too, very well leveraged, very strong. He's very good at absorbing contact, and you actually see him absorbing some combo blocks on tape, right? Something that you wouldn't really expect a 6'1" guy to do, but he can do it. So I think, for what Christian Wilkins does, right, kind of generating displacement with his straight line power, but also being a solid run defender, right, and having that pass rushing upside. Byron Murphy the second for me. Probably your top option if you're going for that. But if you don't get that, I think on day 2, there are a lot of solid options. Ruke, I gotta practice this name. Ruke Arororo from Clemson.
Wow.
I gotta practice that one in the mirror like 5 times every morning, I swear. But he's a fun player, man. He's around 6'4", 300 again, so the straight line power is very appealing with him. He's a little more versatile alignment wise. You can move him around, but very explosive, very sound, intelligent run defender, and he's got great torque and explosiveness as a pass rusher too. Dwayne Carter from Duke is another one that I like a lot. He's pretty stout, compact, but again, really explosive, very, very good player, very workmanlike. I really like what he showed at the Senior Bowl this week, straight line power and pass rushing drills, but also in team drills, really showing the gap identification skills to penetrate the pocket early, make plays in the backfield. He did that up very, very consistently. And at the same time too, I think he was a 3-time team captain, so you're getting a great locker room presence from him. There's so many more guys. I think for the Miami Dolphins in particular, you're looking for that 3-tech role. You've got a lot of options in this class. I think a lot of guys who can kind of disrupt, play off the nose tackle, and kind of fill that gap if you do need to fill it. I think there are options.
What are your thoughts on Christian Boyd?
Christian Boyd, yeah, Northern Iowa. Yeah, he's a riser, man. He's a riser. I think if you can get him on early day 3, he could be one of those FCS guys who maybe sneaks into the top 100. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think in the middle rounds for sure. I think You know, again, so stout, well leveraged, right? He's got a lot of mass, but he wears it pretty well. And just for me, what showed up is that he was just overpowering guys, right? You know, it's a one-on-one situation in the Shrine Bowl, and he's overpowering you because he's stronger, he's more powerful, he's more tenacious, right? At the point, I think what he showed, you know, is that he's got not only the NFL frame, but the NFL athleticism and the NFL mentality to produce the next level. So I think, you know, anytime there's an FCS to FBS leap, FCS to NFL leap, it's going to be a little bit of a projection, but I really liked what I saw from him. I think, you know, his production at the FCS level didn't always do justice the impact that he had, not just as a space occupier, but as kind of a guy who makes quarterbacks and running backs uncomfortable, throws them off course. And then we saw him one-on-ones. He's got the tools to disrupt. So I like him a lot. He's another guy at the FCS level. I think a pretty good value deal.
Hey, Ian, thank you so much. I got a two-part question for you. I do want to start it out as a
oh, God.
They might take my thunder. I stopped putting my notes inside the group. All right. So
you see, I learned from the best, right? You see, I learned from the best.
Wow, here we go. Here, go ahead, Frank. Go ahead, two-time, Frank. Go ahead.
What do you? I know there's a BYU offensive lineman and a Utah, a guy from Utah, Satoya. Have you heard or looked at any of their tape? And what do you think about those guys? And can you tell me a guy that everybody's talking about that you will stay away from? A guy that everybody's giving all this hype and praise, but you don't think it might translate to the next level, or just a guy you're not high on?
Yeah, I think those first two, it was Satoa Lamea and Kingsley Suamataia, I believe, the BYU guy. Lamea I like him a lot as an early day 3 guy. I think, you know, there's still some work to do with leverage and pad level and power drive. I think he's still kind of working on that synergy, but he caught my eye back in 2022 when he was playing at guard, I believe, and he's a very powerful player. You know, he's got the power profile, he's got the natural leverage and proportional length. One thing I look for, like if you're 6'4", over 320, and you got like over 33-inch arms, right, that shows that it's a little bit easier for you to play low, but also make contact first and drive power with your hands. And he's got that profile for sure. So I love that. He's physical, he's tenacious. I think all of the physical and mental traits are there to work with. It's just you're going to need some more refinement on the leverage management side from him. But he's got tackle guard versatility. I think for me, early to midday 3, get him in your rotation as a really good, solid, versatile depth piece. You can feel comfortable with him playing at tackle or guard by year 2 or 3 if he needs to in a pinch, and maybe some starter upside. Kingsley Suamataia is a lot of it higher on my board. He's a top 50 guy for me, but he's super explosive. I mean, Blake Freeland jumped out of the gym last year, 37-inch vertical, I think, fellow BYU product. Suamataia might get close to that too. I mean, the dude is insanely explosive off the line, and he's super physical too. He can really leverage his burst into power with his length and his mass. I think for him, balance can be a little bit of an issue sometimes, bends at the waist occasionally. I think he improved at that, his pass protection, his synergy, and he's got some really good reps of, you know, hand usage and footwork and getting depth on his kick. And one thing I really liked at the Senior Bowl, he took a few lumps early on, but he developed through the week and kind of built on his week, you know, day by day. And by the end of it, he was actually putting on some pretty good tape. So I think, you know, showing that gradual incremental growth within the week, right? You know, getting NFL coaching, really good to see. So Suamataia, he's got left-right versatility as well, which is an added bonus. He's a guy who I think could go round 1 after his testing, but if you can get him in round 2 too, I think, you know, solid value. I think how these tackles settle is going to be interesting because there's so many of them, but he's one of the good ones for sure. One guy that I'm a little bit lower on, you know, I always try to be constructive with my analysis. I'm never going to completely rag on a guy, right? But one guy that I am a little bit lower on relative to the consensus, I would say, is Houston's Patrick Paul. He's more of a late day 2, early day 3 guy for me. I know he's gotten some fringe round 1 hype. The dude is massive. He's got that going for him. He's like 6'7", 320, 36-inch arms. So those arms, you know, it's just tough to get by him, period, right? You know, he's so massive, and he does have really good power in his punches. For me, he's not a great athlete, right? I think he's a passable athlete, but I think the flexibility at his size, Tyler Guyton is 6'7" too, and I think it's a noticeable difference with how they move, how they align themselves, how flexible they are. I do have really big concerns with Patrick Paul's recovery athleticism, right? You know, his hinge flexibility when he has to bend to kind of regain positioning. And then at the same time, there's some pretty glaring technical deficiencies with him too. I think his arms his hands are too wide very often, and playing as upright as he does sometimes, it'll expose him to power at the NFL level, and I don't really trust his ability to recover from that. So early day 3 for me, probably on Patrick Paul. I think, someone's going to take him day 2 just because the tools are pretty alluring, but a lot of work to do, and I don't trust the flexibility to kind of aid his recovery enough.
All right, Ian. Everybody's trending with the 2-part questions. I'm gonna go ahead and get my 2 questions in. You're the Dolphins, and you're on the clock on 21. Who are you picking? And the Miami Hurricanes have like 4 or 5 players that I think that could help us. Javion Cohen at left guard, Leonard Taylor at defensive tackle. You got the Williams safeties. Which out of those guys would you see a better fit with the Dolphins?
Yeah. All right. So first part, who would I take at 21? It does depend on who's there, but the guy that the last couple times I've mocked for them, Jackson Powers Johnson. I hate to provide a repeat answer, right? I try to cover my bases, but I just really like, you've got potential free agents at guard and center, right? You got potential holes there. And I think people undervalue the need for quality interior blocking at the NFL level, not just with the influx of quality defensive tackles, right? There's a lot of disruptors in that defensive tackle rotation in the NFL, but also we're kind of seeing as defenses start to modernize, they're using more sim pressures, they're using more loopers, stunters, right? Sometimes you got Micah Parsons coming down, looping to zero tech and blasting your center off his boots, right? So, you've got to have guys who can be prepared for that. I think, interior offensive line is starting to close the gap on tackle with its value. Tackle is always going to be very valuable because, especially left tackle, or in the Dolphins' case, right tackle, the quarterback can't see him, so it's not in his line of sight, so you want him to, be confident, comfortable knowing that's secure. But I think the interior is very important. I don't think you should skimp on it, and I think JPJ, a high-level guy, still 21 years old, who can play guard or center, for me, that really takes precedence. But I think if Byron Murphy II is there too, that's very compelling. If Jerzon Newton is somehow there, I would really love that pick. I'm a big fan of him still. I know there's been a little bit of a dilution lately, but he's such a good football player and he's so flexible, right? I think that's one thing that won me over with him is his flexibility. He's very strong, very compact, well leveraged, again, super explosive, refined with his hands. But this is a guy who can shade out to 5 tech and win with ankle flexion around the tackle at his size. It's absurd, right? So I think that hyper elite flexibility is going to allow him to be a very, very good player no matter what. So, those are a few guys that stand out to me. And one situation that I've been kind of pondering is maybe cornerback. I don't think cornerback. I would rather go with that on day 2, but I know Xavier Howard's long-term future with the team is a little bit uncertain. I know Cam Smith, the returns haven't been great for him. I think they give him a little bit more time. He's talented. I would do it. But, if there's a very good corner on the board too, like, hey, maybe BPA, right? We'll see. But I would lean JPJ. And then the second question, Miami prospects that could be a good fit. I definitely look at Javion Cohen as a potential fit. I know he's a really experienced guard. He had some good reps at the Senior Bowl. I think, stiffness can be a little bit of an issue for him at times. I think, sometimes getting over his skates and lurching, bending at his waist a little bit, but he's got great torque in his punches. He's super physical, great size to work with. I think you could be looking at a future starter. James Williams could be an option for you if at the optimal value. He's kind of interesting because he's a safety linebacker hybrid, probably going to play linebacker at the next level, but he's very explosive. I know he's a former 5-star recruit. He's going to test out of this world. And me personally, I think looking at some of his safety reps, even going back to 2022, I do think there's a competent coverage profile there. I think you have a guy who does have a pretty fluid back pedal for his size, who knows how to match routes and zone. And so I think and the ball skills are there too. So I could foresee a future for him where he's kind of a safety linebacker hybrid, right? Just let him attack in the box, let him attack plays, attack blocks, and just blast guys off their feet, right? I love the sledgehammer profile that he provides. And I think that, as defenses modernize, just having guys who have that size, that speed, that physicality to attack offenses, kind of obliterate their schemes. That could be fun too. So I like him a lot. Cameron Kinchins, I think he might be a little redundant with Javon Holland, so I would probably lean Williams as that kind of compliment. But those are a few guys from Miami's roster who stand out to me.
All right, Ian. My question is pretty quick and straightforward, I guess you could say. Not so much in early rounds, but maybe in the mid to later rounds. Is there any tight ends that stick out to you that maybe can fit in our system? Because that's something that's sticking out like a sore thumb for us. Some sort of, seam threat, good hands, big body guy that you can probably pick up.
Yeah, I think looking at the Senior Bowl group from this past week, there's a lot of options there. I think Jaheim Bell from Florida State is one that I would consider. I think just the ways that Mike McDaniel would be able to use him as a rack threat. But then I think, one thing, because people build him as kind of a pure rack threat, right? Coming into the Senior Bowl, kind of an H-back type. But he really shows some good things as a route runner. I think using his elite explosiveness and speed and then throttling through zones and getting open with those traits. I think that was a really good thing that he showed. So Jaheim Bell, for me, I think he's a little bit more complete than people let on. He's a little smaller at 6'2", 244, but the dude is dense. He's a rack weapon, and he can separate. I think the profile is really appealing there. Theo Johnson from Penn State. You talk about seam threats. The dude is 6'6", 260, and he might run in the 4.4s. That's a seam threat all the way. Freak athlete, right? He's very explosive, very fast. But then at the Senior Bowl too, he was using that speed and bend to carve through coverages, and he had really good zone awareness and spatial instincts and pretty good hands too. So I think Theo Johnson is rising up the board. He's got some rack appeal too. So you like to see those guys. And then I think Jared Wiley from TCU is a little bit underrated. I like him a lot. I think focus drops can be a concern sometimes, but I think he's a very smooth athlete. Again, you're looking for an easy accelerator with that flexibility to kind of test angles and manipulate coverage angles through the seam and get open. He's got that. He's 6'7", 255, so he can, use his frame to box guys out and make catches over the middle of the field. I like Jared Wiley a lot. He's kind of a sleeper for me. So I think those are my top options. If you want to go a little bit later, Dallin Holker from Colorado State is a sleeper that I like. I think he's another very fluid athlete, very good body control, very good catching instincts. And I think there's going to be value there. So those are some of the top names that stand out to me for the Miami Dolphins at tight end. I think, just getting a guy with that fluid athleticism and the explosiveness to kind of breach the seam, but then also having that added rack element because we know McDaniel can be creative with his weapons. I think that's a great bonus to have too.
So, Ian, let me ask you, the Dolphins are dealing with some issues at pass rusher. Chubb and Phillips are both nursing injuries, ACL and Achilles. What are some guys in the draft that maybe you think could maybe fill in on day 2 or maybe even just a little bit later? I'm pretty high on Jonah Ellis and Braylon Trice. Thoughts on them and maybe some other pass rushers the Dolphins should keep an eye on. Going through. I'm not sure what scheme we're going to be running with Anthony Weaver, but
that's what I was going to say, man. It's going to be interesting to see the shift from Fangio to Weaver. I'm hoping Weaver will bring some of the principles that the Ravens showed in this previous season with Mike Macdonald, because who wouldn't, right? That was a great defense to watch. I think things that I look for when I'm looking at that Ravens defense, if that's what we're projecting, is explosiveness, size, straight line power, but then also enough bend to kind of build off of that too. I think the versatility aspect will be appealing. So Jonah Ellis could be an option. I think he's probably a little bit smaller than what they'll prefer, 6'2", 245, 250. But the dude is a very good football player. I'll say that. I would not be averse to them picking him because he's explosive. He's twitchy. He knows how to supplement his rushing angles and kind of use his hands and feet in tandem. Very deep pass rushing arsenal, right? He can stack counters very quickly, and he's got the bend to rush the arc and breach the pocket. So I really like the pass rushing tools that you're working with there. I do question how he's going to hold up at the edge as an edge setter. So, that might be a question. But Braylon Trice, I think you're kind of having the opposite problem. I think you have a guy who's very explosive, very powerful, not the most bendy, not the most flexible in his midsection. And so I think that can lock him up at the apex sometimes. So that can be a struggle. But, the dude is very explosive. He's very strong. And you see the lateral agility on those inside-outside counters that he works with, the swim moves. He's got violent hands, heavy hands, and he can direct guys. So I really like him a lot, and I think he will hold up a little bit better as a run defender too. So a few other guys that are kind of in that day 3 or day 2 mix. One guy that I scouted just today, wrote up the scouting report, Marshawn Kneeland from Western Michigan. Wasn't super productive at the MAC level, but had a very good Senior Bowl week. He's around 6'3", 268, 34 inch arms. So I think the power profile is definitely there. You go back to the Broncos and watch their tape, and he's an edge guy, right? He'll play at 7 tech, right, wide 9, stand-up rusher, or he'll play at like 5 and with his hand in the dirt. But there are reps too where they line him up as a shaded guy over the zero tech, right? He's like a middle linebacker, and then he just charges in the center with that straight line power and blasts the pocket back. So they used him as a sledgehammer, right? And I think that kind of like a battering ram. And you look at the Ravens, right? The versatility with their edge group, I think he could provide that too. I'm very high on what he has to offer. Brandon Dorless from Oregon is another guy that kind of comes to mind if you're looking at power, if you're looking at versatility. 6'3", I think around 270, 280. And he's got long levers for arms too. He's very, very high motor guy, very tenacious at the point of attack. And I think the natural leverage too, like he can very easily get inside your frame and then drive power from that point on. So those are a few guys. I think this edge class in particular, if you're looking for that, there's not a blue chip guy like Will Anderson from last year. And also the depth is a little bit kind of suspect after the top group. So it'll be interesting to see how the Dolphins value that with their medical history at that position. I mean, I think hopefully Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips are fully healthy and 100% available going forward, but it's not something you can bank on. So if you can get a guy on day 2 or early day 3, I would, because the options kind of dwindle after that. There are a few late round guys that I like. Iabi Oki Anoma from Charlotte is one that I like a lot. If you're going for like round 6 or round 7, former 5-star recruit who's definitely got that straight line power and athleticism that you look for. But the options are a little slim after that. So I think the mid-round range is what you're looking for.
Hey, real quick, Ian, who are the top 3 linebackers and how high do you think they go?
Top 3 linebackers and how high, it's tough to rank them, man, because I don't see a round 1 guy. I think maybe top 50. But my top 3 personally, I've got Cedric Gray up there from North Carolina. I like his game a lot. 6'2", 235. Really good at gliding downhill, kind of splicing through lanes, but then also very smooth, instinctive coverage defender. Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M, very explosive, very, very aggressive coming downhill, but also very controlled. I think the way that he can kind of splice past blocks, he's got very good angle awareness, very good block deconstruction ability, and some upside in coverage too. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. didn't have as good of a 2023 as 2022, but I think back in 2022, you saw some very, very high upside at the linebacker spot. I think, at his peak, I think he was dealing with a hamstring injury for a lot of 2023, and it showed with his mobility at times. But I think, back in 2022, when he was fully healthy, really good lateral mobility, really good explosiveness coming downhill, very instinctive block combatant, very good in coverage, kind of roaming over top, kind of undercutting routes. He had a pick 6 this year where he kind of showed that route identification ability. So those are my top guys. Peyton Wilson, if he's healthy, I think medicals will be the big thing for him. But if that checks out, he has a case to be the top linebacker too. 6'4", 240, very, very rangy player, very good tackler, very good finisher. I think that's kind of what you're looking for at that top group. How high do I think they go? I think scarcity will play a role. I think eventually a team's going to have one of them high enough to maybe take them in round 2. I don't see any going round 1. I think round 2 is where it starts. You maybe see a half dozen, maybe 4 or 5 or 6. I think 6 at the most going on day 2. But that's kind of what I'm looking at, that top group to start out.
French Mechanic, I appreciate that question. You took the words, or you stole the words right out of my mouth. I appreciate that. And thank you so much. I don't know if you have any more time to answer a couple more of our questions.
Yeah, for sure.
We're limited with picks. We got a round 2, a round 5 and 6, and then you got 7. So it feels like more than likely one of these picks are gonna be trade down. But if we stay pat, as far as linebackers is concerned, who are your guys around round 2 and round 5, in your opinion, that the Miami Dolphins should consider?
Round 2, Cedric Gray is the one, probably at the top of the list for me. I really like his game. I just think, really solid 3-down guy. I think if you're looking for reliability and upside, dual-sided, Cedric Gray probably provides the best profile for you. A little bit farther down, Trevin Wallace from Kentucky is another one I'll throw out there too. He's around 6'1", I think 240. He's got 33-inch arms. So the dude is insanely rangy in the box. I think his pursuit speed, his closing speed to kind of erase gaps and make tackles, very impressive. And then at the Senior Bowl and coverage drills, was really fluid, very, very patient with his depth, and was really good covering wheel routes. He's got the speed to erase running backs out there too. So if you're going with upside, physicality, finishing ability, and some versatility too, projected versatility anyway, Trevin Wallace from Kentucky is another one that's very good. Round 5, a few guys that come to mind for me. Aaron Casey from Indiana. He's one that I've liked for a long time. He had 20 tackles for loss this year. So insane production behind the line of scrimmage. He's another pretty dense, well-leveraged guy who is just, a wrecking ball in close quarters. I mean, he attacks blocks with veracity. He's so explosive, straight line. Not the most fluid coverage guy, but I think he's okay. I think he's competent there. I think what you're looking for with him, the big selling point is gap instincts, is aggressiveness, aggression, playing fast, playing physical, confident downhill, and just making tackles, just making plays, right? So he's a fun one. And then Tyrese Knight from UTEP, kind of a small school guy, another pretty dense guy, around 6 foot, 6'1", 245, but another guy who is very, very productive, working downhill. And then in coverage, man, I mean, some of the coverage reps that he has on tape, very instinctive. He will pick out routes early in reps and then kind of loom in front of them, manipulate quarterbacks into throwing to those windows and taking advantage. He's very, very instinctive, sees the game well. He's got that field vision, but then also has the physicality, the athleticism to capitalize on it. So those are some guys in round 5. I think for this linebacker class, it's not super deep at the top end, but if you're the Dolphins and you're looking for a value guy on day 3, similar to the running back group, I think that's where the value is. I think there are a lot of potential gems in that round 5, round 6, even round 7 range. And the fact of the matter is, too, if you can get a really solid defensive tackle early on and shore up that defensive line, make sure you're not losing too much there. You keep those linebackers clean with that solid defensive front. That can kind of help them elevate their game beyond their draft capital if you take them on day 3. So that's where the value is. I would love to get a gem there. And I think for the Dolphins in particular, because you mentioned it, they don't have a ton of capital early on. That might be the way to go.
Well, Ian, man, I really appreciate you for coming through.
Let me get my last fullback question. I can't get a fullback.
No. It's kind of an inside,
Yeah, we appreciate you, man.
Ian, where can we follow? Where can we follow you? And what are you currently working on as we continue with the draft?
Yeah, for sure. You scared me with the fullback thing. I was like, I haven't scouted any fullbacks yet, man. Oh shit, what are we doing here?
Yo,
you can follow me at IC_draft on Twitter. Or it's X now. I'm gonna keep calling it Twitter. I don't care.
That's fine, man.
So it's draft season, man. So we had our Senior Bowl recap. We just had our podcast today. But if you want to go back, check out the risers. We've got that. I've got more scouting reports coming out. So that's gonna be fun leading up to the NFL Combine, and then I will be at the NFL Combine, so we'll be interviewing players. We'll be kind of taking from center court, and we'll be going from there. But until the NFL Draft, scouting reports, more analysis, and as always, remember IC_draft on Twitter. Anytime, hit me up with questions, and I'll try to be responsive when I can. But I appreciate you guys having me on. It was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Awesome.
Hey,
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Everything you said about these offensive tackle was on, man. Listen,
bro, don't pay attention to this guy.
Yeah,
bro.
I'm an offensive line guru right now.
Oh boy,
You're not that guy. Trust me. You're not that guy.
My question is, I had Javon Foster way higher than Paul. What are your thoughts on Javon Foster, the Missouri kid?
Foster, yeah, I like him a lot. I'll be honest. I need to run a final grade on him to get a true valuation of where he is in relation to Patrick Paul.
His hands, man.
I like him a lot. His grip strength is insane. I mean, once he latches on, you're not getting free. It's just not going to happen, right? So, I think again, the flexibility, there are a few times where I'm a little concerned, but at the same time, that's a concern with Paul too. So I think honestly, Javon Foster might be a little bit more athletic, might be a little bit more flexible. And then the hands, man, the grip strength, the power in his punches, and the physicality too. I mean, when he explodes out of his stance. He loads his elbows to get that full power load. So you love to see that. I'm a big fan. I think, right now, probably an early day 3 guy for me. But again, I need to run a full final grade on him to get a true valuation. I think he could be one of those guys who maybe exceeds his draft capital and goes on to be a solid starter, because that Senior Bowl showing, man, I think he really kind of punched above his weight, kind of proved he belonged.
That's my pick, man. That's my tackle who I'm taking. If it's not Troy, I'm taking him.
Awesome.
Don't be hating, French. I have a list. You don't have a list.
No, I got a list of fullbacks that I got a list of fullbacks that I talk about with you, but we don't have enough time on this show. Part 2.
Hit him in the DMs, man. Come on.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks again, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You too.
Fresh,
that
man.
was great.
Nobody cares about your fullback.
Oh my God, this guy. He not even scout any fullbacks.
Hey, all right, guys. We got our next guest up here on the stage, Mr. James Foster. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
What's going on, my brother?
Doing great, man. Peeling like a snake after the Senior Bowl.
Wow.
But yeah, just trying to pump out as many scouting reports as possible until April. How y'all doing?
Good, man. Good. So listen, let's get down to the nitty gritty here. Just give us a little background of who you are, what you do. Let all our viewers know where they can find you and, kind of what you're working on.
Yeah, I cover the NFL and NFL draft for A to Z Sports. My Twitter account is No Flags Film. You can find most of my content there and make videos for the A to Z Film Room YouTube channel, doing a bunch of scouting reports on draft prospects right now. And main thing that I'm working on at this point is writing scouting reports. I've got my big board. It's my pinned tweet. I've got like an interactive table with consensus rankings, recruiting information, all that stuff. You click the row, it pulls up the scouting report, and got a lot of good information in there. So that's the main stuff I'm working on right now.
So, James, who were your standouts at the Senior Bowl?
Well, I mean, I think the MVPs offensively and defensively are Jackson Powers Johnson and Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback for Toledo. I think that's kind of the consensus opinion. But, heading into the week, I was high on Quinyon Mitchell. I was just a little bit concerned that he's this elite, productive corner, and they don't play him in press. It's like, I get that it's a quarters heavy scheme, but you would think at least in the MAC, he would be up on the line of scrimmage more. So really wanted to see him, pressing guys at the line of scrimmage. And it was about an hour into the first practice. I was like, okay, yeah, this guy's a lock to go in the first round. You can just tell the reactive athleticism, how comfortable he is, being aggressive at the line of scrimmage or playing more of a soft shoe press and being a little bit more patient. He's just a naturally talented cornerback. Still has to fix some things, technique wise. He's a little bit jumpy, kind of undisciplined with his hips. You can tell he's inexperienced playing press coverage, but just based on natural talent and what he can already do from off coverage, I think he's a lock to go in the first round, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's the first cornerback off the board.
Hey, James. Question for you in terms of interior offensive line. I know you got your Jackson Power Johnson, guys like Frazier and some other cats. In your opinion, have you seen other interior guys that possibly you took interest of or like consider like, oh, okay, he has something. I could see him in the late second, third round. What are there some guys that you've seen other than JBJ?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Christian Haynes. I have him as a top 50 player. I think that he is ready-made plug and play for an outside zone scheme. His movement skills, I mean, he can pull off reach blocks in his sleep, gets down to the second level quickly. And in pass pro, he didn't face great experience at UConn. Or great competition at UConn, but seeing him at the Senior Bowl, I mean, he held up as well as any interior offensive lineman there. You've probably seen that one rep against Jordan Jefferson from LSU, where he just shut down his bull rush. Jefferson got mad, ripped off his helmet. Haynes told him, "If you're scared, go to church." So love the tenacity that he plays with. The hand placement, the ability to refit his hands, slide his feet, flexible drop in his anchor. I think he's a complete guard prospect that fits any scheme, but for the Dolphins specifically with how they're getting those guys out on the move, I think he's a perfect fit there. I was also a big fan of Dominic Pooney. Really liked his tape. I had more of like an early day 3 grade on him, but after the Senior Bowl, moved him up firmly to day 2. I think he lost a rep early, but then won pretty much every one-on-one rep for the rest of the week. He was working at tackle, guard, and center. He played left tackle at Kansas, but probably a candidate to slide inside. I think for a team like Miami that might have multiple needs across the offensive line, taking someone like Dominic Pooney that, you can just play him in training camp, find out where he fits best and slide him in there. And then throughout the season, every offensive line is going to get injured. So he's someone that can move across the line in a pinch.
Oh man, James, I was watching the Senior Bowl and that kid was Marlon. The defensive pass rushers, there weren't too many. There was this Kansas kid, a pass rusher. I think his name is Rogers, last name Rogers. He's like, I saw a little motor in him. What are your thoughts on him? If you know who I'm actually talking about in the Senior Bowl.
You said Rogers. Is he an edge guy?
Yeah, an edge guy.
Are you maybe thinking of Darius Robinson?
He's a Kansas kid, man. He played
Kansas.
Kansas.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. Austin Booker.
Booker, yes.
Yeah, Austin Booker. So he's a transfer out of Minnesota, barely played before this year. And he's someone that I think could have been a first round top 15 type of player if he came back to school and showed a lot of development. He's, over 6'4", but 240 pounds. So super thin, wiry frame, but he's got 34-inch arms, uses his length well. His tape against Texas from this past season is, I think, one of the best individual performances that I've seen from this edge class. I've got a 3rd round grade on him. I think he's definitely developmental and not someone that you want to be relying on their contribution their first year. But the traits with him are off the charts. You see the natural ability to deconstruct blocks. Once he fully, fleshes out his pass rushing moveset and puts a plan together, I think, he's got edge 1 potential. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of him back into of day 2.
Hey, James, thanks for your time. I got a 2-part question, but I'll say the fullback question to the end of the show.
Oh my God! Here we go.
Just joking, James. It's a fullback joke that they're joking, but I'm not. But I want to ask you, which guy, just kind of watching the tape, whether it's on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball, plays the most violent to you? That when you watch their their play, they jump out at us. I mean, maybe a guy that might, I don't want to say take it overboard, but those guys that just got that edge to them, whether it's on the offense or defense side of the ball, any position.
Man, the first guy that comes to mind is J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama. I think when you look at both phases, run and pass, just eyeballing it, I would guess that he leads this class in kill shots, putting people on the ground. Just some unfair reps where he's driving, you watch the Texas A&M game, he's driving defensive tackles off the screen, 15, 20 yards on duo. He's, slamming people down in pass pro, a little bit kind of rough around the edges. I think I wish, the Alabama scheme does a good job of protecting their tackles from true edge speed. And you'll see players like Evan Neal kind of slip through the cracks that weren't really tested to the outside that much in college. They get to the NFL and they just, can't block a wide 9. So there are concerns with JC Latham. But I think when you just look at natural ability combined with, like you said, playing with that edge, I mean, he's someone that if you're looking to upgrade the nastiness on your offensive line, he's the player that I'm targeting in the first round.
James, a guy we're all really high on around here, Malachi Corley. I know he put on a little bit of a show out there, puts on some physicality on display. What are your thoughts on him as a prospect, and what do you think about his fit potentially in a Shanahan offense?
Yeah, I think that his fit in Miami is perfect. He's someone that I think if you just take him in the third round and plug him into any offense, I'm not necessarily that confident that he'll be, as productive as you want him to be. His Western Kentucky tape is kind of difficult to watch from an evaluation standpoint because it's so much underneath stuff. their goal is just get the ball in his hands and let him create after the catch, which, in today's NFL, that is a valuable skill set with how many teams are playing split safety, forcing you to check it down. If you've got a guy that you can just dump it off on like a 3-yard flat route and he's going to get you 8 yards after the catch and just kind of like march down the field, that's extremely valuable. And I think if you pair him with the deep threats that Miami has, that are going to stretch the field vertically and just let him work underneath, I think he could be insanely productive. At the Senior Bowl, I think, he has like some fluidity to be a more traditional route runner. He is a little bit unrefined at this point. You might have seen the rep where he just like, I forget what the defender was. He just barrels into him, sends him flying 3 yards backwards on a dig route or something. You can tell that a lot of these more traditional routes are kind of new to him. And so he might be a little bit more developmental in that sense. But, if there's with Malachi Corley, Mike McDaniel's probably, one of the 2 or 3 guys that I trust to find a role for him early while he develops that skill set.
Yeah, and that's definitely, I think, a spot where, at least a position that we're going to be looking into, not so much early on, but maybe in the later rounds. So we'll see. Hopefully he can slip a little bit and we'll be able to get him.
Well, that means you got to have to trade down somewhere. So it's either the first or that second to get a little additional pick on that third.
You're going to put a French on coach? You're going to put a French
Oh, my bad. I'm just throwing it out there. Throwing it a little bit out there.
Wow. That's what we doing.
Hey, so listen, I this is actually my question, but one of our viewers brought it up. I think it's Alan. He's saying if there's any quarterbacks that you like in the mid rounds, what's your thought there?
Cornerbacks, right?
Corner. Yeah, I'm sorry, the Cuban in me.
Corner.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of corners that I like in the mid rounds. So I think probably the biggest riser from the Senior Bowl for me was Jarvis Brownlee Jr. out of Louisville. I tweeted out a cut up of all of his one-on-ones from the Senior Bowl, and like he's got some reps where he's just running dig routes for the receivers. And a lot of people are saying like he's guessing the route, but if you slow it down and watch him, he's reading the hips. He just has that elite anticipation to understand why receivers are stimming in one direction, knowing that they're setting up a break in the opposite direction. And, he's got the fluidity to play man coverage. He's super aggressive at the line of scrimmage. He is a little bit undersized, but he's got good length. He's going to get in your face, jam you at the line. It probably projects as more of a slot corner. I think he split his time inside and outside at Louisville, but moved him up a lot. I'm a big fan of Jarvis Brownlee's game and the edge that he plays with. If you're talking about guys that play physical, he's one of the defensive backs on that list for me. Really big fan of Renardo Green out of Florida State. He had some high quality reps against Malik Neighbors, gave him about as good of a fight as anyone this year. He's a press man type of corner. I heard some stat that it was like 80-something% of his snaps this year were in press man. Had a ton of pass breakups this year. And he was, I think, clearly the best corner at the Shrine Bowl. So big fan of Renardo Green. Another guy that I would say is Andrew Phillips. Are y'all looking for slot or outside corners?
Both.
But a little bit of versatile. Yeah, I think that's the name of the game nowadays. It's like versatile all over.
I'm not gonna hold you. I was watching I don't know his name, but this Oregon kid at the Senior Bowl. He's like
Kyrie Jackson.
Huge. That kid.
Yeah,
he's
6'3", 32-inch arms. He's got that. He's got an automatic advantage in press coverage and at the catch point. Like he can, reach into the passing window, knock the ball loose. I think for me with Kyrie Jackson, he's kind of in that like Xavier Rhodes tier of more stiff press corners. If you get him moving side to side, he will allow some separation. Kind of, leans back on his heels. So like a quick slant can get him off balance and he'll let people run free over the middle. But, I think like you can't teach his size, and it's not like he's it's not like he's an SUV like changing direction. He's got a little bit of juice to him. So yeah, I like Kyrie Jackson. And then the other guy I was going to mention was Andrew Phillips out of Kentucky. He is, I think, a pure slot just because he is pretty undersized, 5'10", 191 pounds, but he won every single one-on-one rep at the Senior Bowl. You saw he had a rep against Johnny Wilson out of Florida State, just elite ability to be at full speed, turn around, find the football, rake the ball out. He went 2 for 2 against Ladd McConkey, showing that patience, covering intermediate route breaks. Misses some tackles. That's my biggest issue with Andrew Phillips. But outside of that, I'm a big fan of his game.
Well, Mechanic, go ahead since you were ready to cut off my man. So you ready, man? Unmute yourself. You know it's your Fresh. Oh my God.
Listen, I'm trying to give you all an opportunity like Christian Wilkins, but I got to be like Zach Taylor. It's my time to shine. Hey, James, real quick. Who is nobody talking about? Who is that one guy that nobody is really talking about? Maybe he might have not gotten the marketing or the publicity just yet. Or who's that one guy that's kind of flying under the radar that's, I remember they said when we took Javon Holland, he was one of the steals in the draft when we got him. Who's that one guy that nobody's talking about that's going to come out, whether it's the Senior Bowl or after the draft, that somebody done got that gem?
I think it's going to be Roger Rosengarten, who plays right tackle for Washington. This dude has as much range, like moving up and down the arc in the pocket, as I don't want to say I've ever seen, but definitely in this class. I mean, he can get 5 yards outside of the pocket to mirror a speed rush and then slide back inside and mirror an inside counter. He was another guy that was just lights out at the Senior Bowl. I don't think he lost a single one-on-one rep. On his college tape, the main times that he gets in trouble is just he's a little bit unrefined, unpolished with his set depth because he does have that recovery ability. So there are sometimes he'll get too far outside, allow a little bit too much space through the B gap. Technical stuff like that he needs to clean up. But he's really quick, coordinated with his hands. Has a little bit shorter arms, I think just under 34 inches, so not terrible arm length. But I'm a big fan of Roger Rosengarten. I just think the natural talent, I have an early 3rd round grade on him, and he's 176th on the consensus board. So I'm a huge Roger Rosengarten fan. And then like a deep sleeper that I haven't heard anyone talk about is Walter Roos out of Oklahoma. He's a left tackle, just massive frame, a rockin' pass pro, didn't allow a sack this year. He can move people in the run game. And I thought watching the Shrine Bowl tape, I thought he was one of the better offensive tackles there. I think 35 plus inch arms for him, good weight as well. So those are 2 tackles, more mid to later round guys that I think the Dolphins could be targeting.
Let me enter this chat because you said Robert and I was about to jump through a wall. This little wall I have here, that is my guy. I was looking at some of his scouting report. They were saying stuff as like he struggles a little bit with power to speed. Do you agree with that? I thought he did well to kind of hold his man in that arc vicinity that you were mentioning of. Like I didn't see him allow any defender invade his space or enter into that interior side. He just arced those defensive ends right out the pocket. So I don't know if to me, I need to see more tape, but from what you've seen, do you see him struggle a little bit with power and maybe he needs a little more development to kind of be a full, complete tackle?
Yeah, so I wish that the Senior Bowl pass rushers would have tried to hit him with power. Like they were trying to speed rush him, and it's like that's not going to work. Like I'm trying to see this dude anchor. So he didn't get that many opportunities at the Senior Bowl. I watched, let's see, I'm 7 games through Roger Rosengarten's tape, and I think I might have seen 1 or 2 like minor losses to power. He is kind of light. He's 311 pounds. That's actually like a heavier weight than he looks. He looks like he kind of has a thin frame. But I didn't notice that as a major problem. I think in the NFL, that is probably the one area that he might struggle with. But yeah, I'm continuing to get through the rest of his tape. But yeah, I mean, I think that for Rosengarten, the thing is, he does a great job of getting underneath the pass rusher. He's really accurate with his punch and getting his hands inside, so he can kind of stall speed to power pretty often. He also is really good at using the snatch trap technique, where a pass rusher's overextending, like getting into the long arm, you release contact, slam him down. Both of the Washington tackles, you can tell they're practicing that. They're repping that every day in practice because they use it constantly. So he's got from a hand fighting perspective, he's got the counters to deal with that. So I don't have too many major concerns about it with him.
Hey man, listen, that's like my favorite.
Yeah, we talk about him a lot.
That's my topic,
Yeah.
man. That's what we going with, man. I was watching in the Senior Bowl, Gabe Hall and Carter, both defensive tackles. I like the upside with Gabe Hall. I guess he's a little bit more raw, but given his stature, he gives me the Armstead, Tariq Armstead from the Niners. If I'm not mistaken.
Eric Armstead.
Eric Armstead.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He gives you those vibes, but he needs to fill out. Who would you favorite for the Dolphins out of those two?
Yeah, I was really impressed with Gabe Hall at the Senior Bowl. Like the arm over swim moves that he was using, it was just seemed unblockable at times. He's a player that I hadn't watched heading into the Senior Bowl, and I have heard from people that ended up going back to his tape that the tape looked nothing like the Senior Bowl performance. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like. But I think from just like a traits perspective and explosiveness, he's definitely a player that I think could develop into a good pass rushing 3 technique. He's got the length. He's almost 300 pounds, 6'5" and 6'8". So yeah, I mean, he's got the traits. I'll have to see what the tape looks like. Dwayne Carter is, he's a player that I think I just have questions about, being like a tweener between kind of a nose tackle and a 3 technique, where he's a little bit too big and lacking in explosiveness to be a consistent pass rushing threat as a 3 tech, and maybe doesn't have the elite size to hold up as a nose tackle. But he flashes on tape just with his ability to control blocks, his hand usage, got pretty good length. And, he can, especially, I was checking out some 2022 games from him. I thought he showed more pass rushing juice the year before. There were some games this year that he just kind of disappeared. But yeah, I like Dwayne Carter as a day 3 option. Gabe Hall, I really like what I've seen from him what I saw from him at the Senior Bowl, but I'm trying to temper my expectations because apparently the tape isn't quite as impressive.
James, I got. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, real quick, James. Let me ask you, Graham Barton or JPJ? Who are you higher on the interior line? I know Graham Barton probably offers a little bit more versatility because he can maybe give you a little bit at tackle. But what are your thoughts on possibly Graham Barton moving back to center? And what are your comparisons between him and JPJ overall?
So I have Jackson Powers Johnson at 26th on my board and Graham Barton at 34th. So very similar grades, but I would prefer Jackson Powers Johnson. I think with Graham Barton, like he is just so controlled and composed in pass protection, like constantly squared up to whoever he's trying to block. He's a borderline dominant run blocker. Like his matchup with Jared Verse is one of the best one-on-one matchups that you'll see from this class. Verse got some wins on him, but there were a couple reps where he was driving Verse like 8 yards off the line of scrimmage. The biggest issue with Graham Barton is the combination of arm length and being late with his punch. If somebody tries to come in with a long arm, he'll let them into his frame, and then he just doesn't really have the anchor to hold up against that. Like those are the the majority of his losses come against power. And so I think that based on the length, I think that he is an easy candidate to move inside, but you still got to be able to block power rushes at guard. Like that's what defensive tackles are going to be using. So yeah, I'm a fan of Graham Barton. I actually haven't watched his tape at center. I think he played there as a freshman. I know a lot of people really like him at center, but I think those are both great options. I think that the tackle versatility with Graham Barton being able to play there in a pinch, maybe not necessarily like your full-time starter, that adds some value for him. But what Jackson Powers Johnson showed at the Senior Bowl, being able to slide over to guard and look just as dominant in the one-on-one reps, that raised his value for me, because heading into the Senior Bowl, I was really only thinking of him as a center only. But being able to play all three interior spots, I think, definitely worth a late first round pick.
Chad, can I interject here? All right, so we got a couple questions from our viewers, and I kind of let's do I guess you do a rapid round here. I know we're kind of running out of time.
Grandparent is better. I just want you to understand. I'm taking.
Yeah, okay. It's not gonna happen.
Whatever. I'm just saying.
All right, so we got a question here to ask if we could probably get Trotter in the later rounds. What do you think about that?
Jeremiah Trotter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would expect Jeremiah Trotter to fall to day 3. That would be my projection. I think he's someone that's getting some top 50 hype, especially earlier in the draft process. The way I see it is like if Ivan Pace went undrafted with, I think, objectively better tape than Jeremiah Trotter Jr., it wouldn't surprise me if Trotter falls to the 4th round. He's small. He's not the fastest linebacker, but I think outside of that, I think he does pretty much everything well. So it all just depends how the NFL values that. He's got some really good coverage instincts. His ability to feel routes developing behind him in zone coverage. Even though he doesn't have elite sideline range, he does a good job of reading the play quickly, flowing with the run, great anticipation on screen passes. He's, doesn't have great length, but I think he maximizes his frame when it comes to stacking and shedding, ripping underneath blocks. And I think to me, he's an early day 3 type of prospect. You never know how the NFL is going to value him. I know, if he's going higher in mock drafts, that might, I guess, indicate that there are teams in the NFL that are, feeding people information that he's going to go high, but I would expect him to be more of a day 3 player at this point.
All right. So second question here by Skyline is, what linebackers do you think are I guess in good in the middle rounds? I think he's specifically talking about middle linebackers.
Yeah, I like Tyron Hopper out of Missouri. He's got a good blend of coverage ability and run defense. He can run with tight ends down the pole in Tampa 2. He can stack and shed climbing blocks. He misses some tackles, but really instinctive against the run. He's kind of the guy in mid rounds that I'm really targeting. Junior Colson, it seems like I see him rising up draft boards. I had him as an early day 3 player, but it's seeming like he might not make it that late in the draft. But he's a player that just outside of speed, he really has everything that you want for a linebacker. Secure tackler, does a great job scraping, active hands to knock down climbing blocks, really good stopping power as a tackler. He can stand up people on 3rd and 1, prevent them from falling forward through contact, quick play recognition, play diagnosis. And, he's got the lateral quickness to bounce around blocks, maneuver through traffic. He just doesn't have elite sideline to sideline speed. And, that could cause him to fall. So if he's there early day 3, that could be someone that you target. And And then the other guy that I would say is I'd probably go Jalen Ford out of Texas. He's an interesting option, very similar to Junior Colson in the sense that the biggest issue with him is just average top speed. There's kind of a limit to how high my grade is going to be if I don't feel like you're this elite sideline to sideline player. But, he's got the length. He's probably one of the best block shedders in this class, super heavy hands, engaging with blocks. Really high motor player. He's got the length to be impactful, reaching into passing windows and zone coverage. He can thump and stand up pullers and lead blockers. And he's someone with a lot of experience, very communicative and alert pre-snap. So he could be a day 3 linebacker that kind of slips through the cracks and ends up being a good starter.
Great. All right, James, I want to give you our thanks. Appreciate your time and giving us all your info. Why don't you let our viewers know where they can find your work?
Yeah, on Twitter or X at No Flags Film, and on YouTube at A to Z Film Room.
Awesome. Thanks again from all of us, man. Appreciate your time. We'll be sure we'll be in touch in the future.
Brother.
Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, thanks again.
Love the film cut-ups, James. Keep going, man. Appreciate it.
Hey man, I want you to know that all my picks, I'm saying everybody see what
Hey, Ivan Pace. You heard Ivan Pace. I was telling all that. I was telling folks last year.
Yeah. Hey.
All right, guys, we got our next guest is on. Kevin, I'm not even gonna try. I'm gonna let you pronounce it. And then I'll follow up.
I don't blame some people just say ostrich and give up. So I appreciate you letting me take the reins here. It's Ostriker. It's like the American Pie thing. If you've seen that, yeah.
No, I thought that's exact. I just didn't want to butcher it. I didn't want to.
No, you're good.
So, I want to thank you for coming on. I want you to let everybody know what you do, and basically how you got here to this point in your career.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm the host and producer of Locked On Ravens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. So that's 5 days a week. We do content plus bonus episodes. People are eating the Ravens content up during the playoffs. Unfortunately, didn't end the way that a lot of people here in Baltimore wanted. But 5 days a week, Ravens content over there, whether it's YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast and other form. I also write over for the Ravens Wire, USA Today. So doing that. And I've also just started up with the Ryan Ripken Show, Kyle Ripken Jr.'s son. I've been working with him and a bunch of other people. We do Baltimore content over there as well. So we've talked plenty about the coaching losses on all the platforms. And one of those, obviously, which I'm sure I'll get into tonight, it's Anthony Weaver.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's why you're here, buddy. All right, who's up first?
A big question that everyone has, right? Why wasn't Weaver first in line for the DC position in Baltimore? And what kind of coach could you say we're getting in Anthony Weaver in Miami?
For the first part of the question, I think it really came down to the Ravens. They had so many quality coaches on that staff this year. They had to make a tough decision. And how I think it went, this isn't necessarily confirmed, but Zach Orr confirmed part of this. So they went with Zach Orr, I think, over Anthony Weaver as their defensive coordinator. And part of the reason for it is because I think that they believe that Zach Orr can have a similar path to Mike Macdonald. Not that Anthony Weaver isn't a good candidate. I think that when you talk about play calling versus non-play calling, Weaver's been there, right? He's had play calling experience. But for Zach Orr, I think the Ravens feel like they can kind of mold him, and Orr has already had a pulse on the organization, being there as a player for 3 years before retiring and then coming back as a coach and working his way up. So I think how it was going to go for the Ravens is they had to make a choice between Orr and Weaver. Orr said that Mike Macdonald, he went to Seattle to be the head coach. Orr said that Macdonald tried to get him over there to Seattle, and it would have taken a lot for him to leave Baltimore, and the Ravens offered him that job, and he took it. I think Weaver was in consideration, but I think they went with the younger play caller because they just had the success with Mike Macdonald, and the Ravens have historically promoted, it's kind of a funny trend, they've promoted their linebackers coaches. Dean Pease, many years ago, he was the linebackers coach promoted. Once he left, it was Don Martindale. He was the linebackers coach promoted. Then it was Mike Macdonald from Martindale. He was the linebackers coach. And now Zach Orr, he was the linebackers coach. Not that has, that's not the only reason they did it. But I think in Weaver, you're getting somebody in Miami that, first of all, has the ear of his players. He's someone who is a master motivator. He knows the game, obviously played in Baltimore and had a pretty solid NFL career. Wasn't, super Hall of Fame or anything like that, but he's been around the game for a really long time. and I mentioned has that play calling experience. And coaches, players, everybody in the organization loved him. He impressed John Harbaugh enough during his time there that he earned the associate head coach role. And part of this for a lot of people in Baltimore is it's tough to lose all these guys. And I think Weaver was somebody that a lot of people had their eye on for the defensive coordinator role in Baltimore, but they went with the younger candidate in Orr. He'll bring over some of that Mike Macdonald style defense. And part of that is, I call it timed aggressiveness, where you're not going to blitz on every single play in the Ravens defense and what they did, but they love using corner blitzes and safety blitzes and guys off of the edges. And sometimes you'll get some short stuff that you'll give up is the Ravens defense and use that system, intermediate stuff too, but they don't let you get beat deep. That defense does not get beaten deep. They tighten up inside the red zone. And so Weaver is going to have the ear of his players. I mean, that's just what it is, where these Ravens coaches and players loved Weaver in Baltimore, and he's been well-respected wherever he's gone. And I don't expect that to change in Miami.
All right, Kevin, thank you for your time. Quick question. People, to the untrained eye, you see the name and you see the accolade. You might, he's just a defensive lineman coach. So defensive linemen are the only position group that is going to thrive under Weaver. For the people that have that train of thought, can you tell us what other position group you might see that is going to take an actual jump with him here?
I think everybody. I think, first of all, when you talk about the defensive line, I was really impressed. And it was a couple of coaches, but Weaver was the one who was in charge of that defensive line group. And we saw Justin Madubuike in Baltimore have one of the best interior pass rushing seasons in Ravens history under Weaver this past season. Michael Pierce had a resurgence. He was somebody who had been oft injured, but he was a presence in the middle as kind of the big nose tackle. Travis Jones took a year or two leap under him. But then it does go beyond that, as you talked about, where I think that will go to, the outside linebackers, to the inside. Everybody's going to have Weaver's attention, and then the positional coaches, whether they're retained from Miami or he brings in some guys on his own from the Baltimore staff or from outside the organization, I think it's going to be good. He's had a track record of developing younger players, of getting the best out of veterans who are maybe on their second to last contract or last contract. And Miami has a blend of that, right? I think that he can attack this in so many different ways, and he's shown that, whether it's from his coordinator experience in Houston, him having an increased role in Baltimore, and obviously it'll depend on some of the recoveries for Miami's players, like a Bradley Chubb and a Jalen Phillips, when those guys are able to come back. But I think that once they're able to come back, they're already great players, but I think he can even unlock a couple more levels to those guys, which is what he did with some of the players he had in Baltimore, like a Kyle Van Noy, for example, a Jadeveon Clowney. Those guys in Baltimore, he and Chuck Smith worked in tandem to essentially have Van Noy sitting on his couch in week 3, and they brought him in. He had almost 10 sacks on the season. So you can have that where if Miami brings in a couple of veteran players, I know they kind of had to do it last year because of how many injuries they suffered. It was just an injury-riddled group on the defense all season. Get guys back healthy. I think Weaver can get the best out of really any positional group on that defense.
Well, hey, thanks again, Kevin. When you talk about getting the best of some of these guys, I think, and I look at specifically Javon Holland. What are some of the ways that you all use that safety group, and what are some of the ways you potentially see him using Javon Holland in an overall scheme? I'm not sure what scheme they're going to run, or the whether it's going to be the 3-4 to 4-3, but where do you see Javon Holland specifically thriving with this new coaching, player motivated? Because I know he was a little banged up last season, but I feel like we didn't get the best Javon Holland we could have seen. But what are some of the things you think we might see from him going into next season?
Yeah, I'm excited about Holland in this defense. And again, how much of it comes over from McDonald's system in Miami, we don't know that. We're going to figure that out as the offseason goes on. But what the Ravens did with their safety group in particular is they had a lot of depth there. They had Kyle Hamilton, who has turned into one of the best safeties in the NFL, and this is only his second season. They signed Marcus Williams to a big deal last offseason, but he was hurt for a good amount of the season. He's been hurt, honestly, for the last 2 seasons in Baltimore. So what they had is Geno Stone there, who had a career high in interceptions. He was all over the field for them. And part of it was with Hamilton in particular, and with Holland, I would love to see Miami use him more in a Swiss Army knife role where you can play him any place on the field. They've done that to an extent. But with Kyle Hamilton, what Mike Macdonald and Anthony Weaver and those defensive positional coaches ended up doing with him they moved them all around the field. You put them up in the box, you put them up at the line. And Kyle Hamilton, he had 3 sacks in 1 half against the Colts in week 3. And then he was able to get his hands on a couple of interceptions, right place, right time. And it's all about using the skill set where we know Holland can cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. He's rangy, he's physical. And I think that a player, I'm not saying Holland and Hamilton are the exact same player. Obviously, Holland excels more in one area than Hamilton, and Hamilton does in another area than Holland. But I think that they're similar enough in terms of how good they are, where you can use Holland all over the field. And if you want to play, and they used Hamilton in the slot too to cover slot guys. They had him on tight ends and running backs, and they had him everywhere. So if I'm Anthony Weaver, I want to try to emulate as much of that as possible with a guy like Javon Holland, because it makes everybody on your defense better. And it takes some of the assignment off of some of these other guys too. I know that Miami has a couple of free agent decisions to make this offseason, such as, a guy like Jerome Baker. What does that look like? Well, I think with a Holland, you can use him. It's kind of the way the league is going, almost the positionless defenses, where we're seeing guys lining up in all these different areas of the field. Even so, Hamilton came into the league as a strong safety, but he wasn't used in that Baltimore defense as a strong safety. Holland came into the league as a safety, but you can use him at all 3 levels of your defense, line him up everywhere. And I think it helps a defense because you're elevating one of your best players to that status of, oh, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be where I need to be. And Holland certainly has that potential. And I'm excited to see him in an Anthony Weaver type defense.
Go ahead, Ty.
All right, so Kevin, let me ask you. Patrick Queen and Geno Stone are both free agents. Do you guys plan on, per your knowledge, retaining them? And do you see them as possibly, even though I'm not huge on Patrick Queen, I don't want to get into it, but do you see them as possibly guys that could, be traveling over with Anthony Weaver to Miami? And what are some things that you think we should be looking for as far as potential fits, as far as, what type of traits we should be looking for from like the linebackers and things like that in this defense?
Yeah, I think
what could be like it.
Yeah, I think Queen could definitely be an option. I know there's been a lot of rumblings about maybe him going to Seattle and following Mike McDonald because that's his guy over there. But I do think that with Patrick Queen, any type of player, I think when you talk about what this Ravens defense was last season, they were just physical. That's the word I come out to, is they need physical guys. And so when Zach Orr's building his defense in Baltimore, they're going to look for that. And I think when you talk about what McDonald's going to want in Seattle, what Weaver's going to want in Miami, even Denard Wilson, who's now the defensive coordinator over in Tennessee, it takes some of that from Baltimore. The physicality is going to be that. And they really went that direction in the offseason, where the Ravens got rid of their finesse players last offseason. Like Marcus Williams is more of like the ball hawk type of player, can bait a quarterback into an interception. They went with Rocky Ya-Sin, who was, suplexing guys on the field. And he didn't really play a lot, but they went with that trait. Justin Houston, who I know had a cup of coffee over there in Miami a couple weeks ago, and they just needed bodies. But he was the finesse pass rusher, third down guy. They bring in Jadeveon Clowney, who was one of the most physical edge setters in the NFL. So if I had to get, and Patrick Queen emulates that. Geno Stone, while he's more of the ball hawk interception guy, you can play him in the deep half and have him as a single high guy if you need. I think that for Patrick Queen, the consensus in Baltimore, and who knows if it happens or not, we haven't gotten to that point yet, but they already paid Roquan Smith $100 million for a huge contract. In today's NFL, we talk about like positional groups and how they're getting devalued, but especially I think running backs at the top of that list, where the running back position right now is so devalued. I think with middle linebackers and some of the ways that, these 3 safety looks are coming in, or multiple defensive back personnel, you really only need one inside linebacker in some of these defenses for the majority of it. So for Baltimore, it's, can you justify? I think Patrick Queen will probably get, at a minimum $60 million. I have him up in like to the 70 to 90 range because I think a team will pay. I mean, we saw Tremaine Edmonds get it. I think that it's hard to justify Baltimore paying a guy like that. So I could see him coming to Miami potentially. It could be a thing that happens because Weaver's definitely going to want some familiarity, but he also understands that, look, he was a lot of the reason, and I'm not saying he was the only reason. Baltimore had a lot of good coaches, but he developed a lot of players on that defensive line in particular, obviously, because that was the positional group he worked the closest with. But he's had experience, again, at the NFL level, obviously, as a player. He knows what he's doing. So I wouldn't be shocked if maybe, or even a guy like a Clowney or a Van Noy, if if a guy like Van Ginkel doesn't come back, or maybe Jalen Phillips or Bradley Chubb, that recovery lasts a little longer than you want it to. Maybe they want to bring in a guy on a 1-year deal who they know can contribute and had a resurgence in Baltimore and had the success under Anthony Weaver. And Weaver says, hey, you know what? We're not going to get a Jalen Phillips back till November, December, whatever it may be. Let's bring in a guy like Clowney who can get us there and then provide us snaps after the fact. So there could be a couple Baltimore guys that maybe go to Miami in the offseason. I wouldn't be shocked.
No, neither would I. I'm kind of glad that this is a perfect segue to my question. I wanted to get your opinion on Coach Weaver's, I guess you could say the way he's developed players overall. I know that the defensive line success is well advertised on what he has, but how is he? It seems to me, the short clips that I've seen and a lot of the chatter that I've read, that he really connects with these players at a level that they understand, and he gets the most out of them. And I think for us, we're in the position to where, we're not going to be, and I've said this a million times, and I'm probably say it another million times until we figure out what they're going to do with the salary cap, is that we can't pay everybody. So we're going to have to develop guys and draft guys. So I have a feeling that that's where Coach McDaniel was, he was leaning towards with his signing of this guy, of Coach Weaver, and also his track record. So what do what can you tell us that, we might not know about him?
Well, I think when you talk about him as a player, I mean, I don't necessarily put all the stock in the world into, this guy played versus he didn't, in terms of how good of a coach that makes you. But it certainly helps that Weaver played, he has the experience. And so for an example, for a player like Justin Madubuike, Weaver worked with him for a couple of years. And with Madubuike, a lot of the early stuff with him in terms of his development was he would win really hard on some reps. But when he won, he didn't necessarily have a plan in terms of what to do after he won. And that led to, he would overrush the quarterback and allow them to step up in the pocket. He would whiff on a guy, and he didn't have as I think, intricate of a plan as he needed to as a pass rusher. And I think Weaver worked with him, and I think got him to a place where, again, we saw the breakout with him, and I think we're probably 25 per year annually on whatever contract he's going to get, whether it's from Baltimore or somebody else. But that was a lot of the stuff with Madubuike, where Weaver has been there. He's done that. And he worked with Madubuike to get him into, okay, you won. Now, what do you do after you win? And so for him to have that type of a plan, to sit down with a player like that and say, the talent is there, the potential is there, you're showing it, but now how can we take you to the next level? And how can we get you a plan to what to do? Not only the first step, but you get step 2, step 3, step 4, and it's that whole intricate process. So for him to be able to work with young players like that, to work with Mike McDonald in that defense and say, hey, you know what? I think we can really utilize Travis Jones as a guy that is a big run stuffing presence, but he's not just a third down pass rusher. I think coming out of UConn, a lot of people were shocked, one, he fell so far, but two, it was, he is a run defender, is good, but as a pass rusher, that's where he's going to make his bread and butter. That's where the money comes in. But he was a great two-way player for them last season. I think Weaver sees that potential and just has a different outlook on a lot of things. So when people talk about Weaver and what he brings to the table, I think it's so important nowadays for you to connect to your players. I think we've kind of entered an era of, all right, these players, coaches have had a lot of success in the development because you just want to go to war for those type of guys, right? And I think Weaver, he has that passion, has the energy. There are a bunch of clips about him circling on social media right now about the plan that he has and the plans that he's had at the stops he's been at. And so to me, that's the number one thing where, again, he and Chuck Smith worked in tandem together a lot. Chuck Smith being the Ravens pass rushing specialist and outside linebackers guy who obviously he had a playing career and did some independent work. And they worked with Odafe Oweh on his long arm bull rush. And Oweh had the best year of his career in year 3 after a sophomore slump. So he's going to bring in guys around him, Weaver on that coaching staff, and obviously some guys I'm sure will stick around in Miami, obviously, too. But I think it's going to be a group effort from a lot of these guys. But now Weaver has the head man of the defense role. And I think he earned it after what he did. And a lot of the Ravens coaches did. And I'm happy for Weaver. He got the opportunity.
Hey, Kev, really quick. Let me get in really quick before Wally or Mechanic get in here. They like to take my points. But let me ask you, one of the things I was thinking specifically with Weaver, and one of the questions I want to ask you, who does he build the defense around? one of the things I was thinking about specifically with this defense is we got a lot of young guys. You know, Holland's still young. I mean, we still got some young pieces that we drafted, but who would you see him building this defense around, or does he go get somebody to build this defense around? What do you think, you know, with him coming, looking at this team, you know, okay. What do you think he does? Or what do you think his vision is? Better yet.
I think for me, you almost maybe take a similar approach to Baltimore. And we talked about Javon Holland earlier. I think that might be the guy you try to build around and get him to take even another jump here in this next season. And I think you have other pieces. I mean, again, I think once you get Jalen Phillips back, it's so huge to get Jalen Phillips back. I mean, he's such a stud. I was a big Jalen Phillips guy in that draft, and I thought Miami got a steal in the pick with him. But I think in the way the Ravens ran their defense, I think their top three guys, it was Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, and Marlon Humphrey. And you know, Matabike was a big part of that too. I think he was probably 4, but to me, I think if you have a good interior pass rusher, and again, what do you do with a guy like Christian Wilkins? Do you bring him back? Do you not? I think that's a conversation. But I think if you have Javon Holland there, you get Jalen Phillips back healthy, you can build around those two guys, and then maybe you can bring in – there are a couple of young linebackers that are intriguing. I know Patrick Queen is one. Jordan Brooks from Seattle's another one. Do you bring in a guy like that? Do you bring back Jerome Baker? It's an interesting conversation, but I think Holland is that centerpiece for me, where if you can get him to take a jump or two and you have him on that level, I think everything else kind of falls into place because he can do so much for your defense if you use him as a chess piece. And then everybody else kind of has a role out for them. It works like that.
Is it crazy to say, and I know people are going to get on me when I say it, but almost like a Troy Polamalu you can use him as? Troy was he was a special athlete, so I don't want to compare him per se to like a Hall of Fame, but like being able to put him on the line, then he jumps back into coverage. And you know what I mean? That kind of strategic chess move, we haven't really seen that in defense. I mean, Micah Parsons gives you that, but Micah Parsons really isn't covering nobody in coverage per se.
Right. I think for me, I mean, I think that's what you want in a defense. And I mean, again, Polamalu, the Ed Reeds, all those types, you want to have a chess piece on your defense, I think, in today's game. And whether it is a safety, whether it's a, athletic linebacker, I think that's just the way the game is going. So to have a Holland, if you can get him up to a level where he can line up on the line and he can blitz off the edge and he can, play up as a linebacker and kind of like the dime linebacker type, I think you can do that. Plus, we know he has the range and we know he can move back. So all that type of stuff. I mean, Kyle Hamilton does it for the Ravens. You have a lot of it. I was a big Holland guy too. Miami takes a lot of my draft crushes, if you couldn't tell. So I'm somebody that I'm a big believer in Javon Holland. I think we can get the best out of him and kind of unlock some things that aren't there yet.
All right, before French asks another question, because he thinks the show revolves around him. I'm just saying, man. Listen, is he gonna be in a press box, or is he gonna be on a field with the actual guys? And like, who? I know it's obvious to say that Javon Holland is the guy to make the jump, but I'm curious to see what he does with Tyndall, what he does with these young kids, because the way he talks, the way he carries himself, I think he's gonna resonate well with these kids, and even as being a guy that had to get it from the mud with the Ravens.
Yeah, I think so. To answer the first part, I think he'll be on the field. If I had to guess, Zach Orr had a quote today. He was getting introduced as the Ravens defensive coordinator, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to be on the field. I need to look these players in the eyes." And I think Weaver shares that same sentiment. Where I'm fine with people calling from the booth, but I think there's an element of being on the field to me, where you can gauge the emotions of your players, you can talk to them, you can one-on-one conversations with them. So I think Weaver, he will be on the field. He was on the field with the Ravens, and I expect that to continue in Miami. But I agree. I think him resonating with these young guys as a guy who played in the NFL, who has that experience, who obviously is well-traveled both as a player and as a coach. The development aspect that I saw in Baltimore last year, because it wasn't just with the Clownies and the Pierces and all that. The jump that he got from Matabike, a guy like Broderick Washington, who didn't necessarily have all these box score stats, but came on as the year ended. Even a guy like Tavius Robinson, who was an outside linebacker for the Ravens, drafted him in the 4th round, really was super raw coming out of Florida State and didn't really have, or not Florida State, excuse me, but he didn't have a lot of role in front of him when the season started, but they had to use him because of all the injuries. And he and Chuck Smith worked with him, and he actually played a pretty big role. So I'm excited to see, as for all these young guys in Miami, what it does. And again, you get rookies in there too. Weaver has a lot of respect around the league, and that's not going to change in Miami. So I'm excited because, again, it was a hire that I don't think the Ravens could have gone wrong with Zach Orr or Anthony Weaver. Obviously, they chose Zach Orr, and Weaver went to Miami, and I think I'm happy for him because he deserves an opportunity to kind of have his own defense again. He didn't work out in Houston, went to Baltimore, worked back to where he is, and I'm excited for him to now have this opportunity.
Was Weaver your personal favorite or choice for the job, or were you more in favor of Zach Orr personally?
I was fine with either, but I will say that one thing that I thought about during the process was the play calling. Zach Orr's never called plays before, and Anthony Weaver has. So that, to me, I wasn't sure, because there's going to be a learning curve with Zach Orr and calling plays in Baltimore. So I think that with Weaver, it would have been less of a curve. Weaver has been there. He's called the plays in the defense before. But Zach Orr's been with the Ravens for longer than Weaver has. So he has more of the understanding of, oh, well, okay, I've been here since he was a player. I mean, he was an all-pro his last year in the league before having to cut his career short due to an injury. So for me, I think that I wouldn't have minded either way. But what I had to come to terms with, and I think a lot of Baltimore did too, was whichever one of those guys didn't get the job, the other one was going to leave, whether it was Weaver to Miami or to Seattle, whatever it was. So that was kind of what I had to come to terms with. But I do think the play calling played a factor for me. But I think Orr's going to be just fine. It might be won't be a sunshine and rainbows road all the way for him, but it wasn't that way with Mike Macdonald either. And it isn't that way for any other coordinator too. So it's sad to see Weaver go. A lot of people are bummed out he didn't stay, but this was coming for him. I think a lot of people knew in Baltimore that if he didn't get the Ravens D coordinator job, another team was going to give him an opportunity, and Miami took advantage.
French you got something, French Mechanic Jr.?
You guys sleeping over there? Or?
I was going to add something to that question, but I'll wait for Mechanic, or I'll wait for Chad.
Wow. You know what? Since you guys don't want to ask any questions, man, which guys do you see like out of the Ravens coming with him? Like, he has maybe a low key defensive line guy that you guys might not bring back. Is there any guys in the roster you might be seeing in a uniform this season?
Yeah, I think for going elsewhere, if there was a piece. Because Patrick Queen and Geno Stone and those guys, and Clowney and Van Noy, those are all guys who are known. But the Ravens do have a couple of younger free agents that I'd be interested to see where they go. But one that I'm really interested in actually is Ronald Darby. I know that Miami corner-wise, I mean, it's not like it's the biggest need on earth for them, but just as a depth guy, I mean, as a depth player, I think that Darby can help out. He had one of the better seasons across the league this year. And while I wouldn't necessarily, Miami wouldn't need him as a cornerback one, but you can play him on the outside. I know that there are some questions with Xavier Howard and kind of what that's going to be, but you have Jalen Ramsey there. Obviously, Kohu is a guy you have to, but I think that, to me, Darby is a depth piece. I think he might follow somebody, whether it's McDonald or Weaver or Wilson or one of those guys. Ronald Darby is a really interesting piece in terms of what a team could get out of him. I also think Malik Harrison, everybody talks about Patrick Queen is the gem of that class in terms of linebacker, and he was. I mean, we got to give him credit. But Malik Harrison was somebody who, when he got an opportunity, he was a third-round pick out of Ohio State back in 2020. When he got an opportunity, he performed. He's a physical linebacker. He also, the Ravens developed him a bit at the Sam position, so he can play on the outside a little bit, can set the edge. He's not going to, light the world on fire, but is someone that maybe you bring in as a depth linebacker who can fill in some circumstances. I think Malik Harrison could be another name to watch.
Well, Kevin, appreciate you giving us all this great insight on Anthony Weaver. We hope that he can bring some of that tenacity and toughness that the Ravens are known for defensively. We could definitely use some of that in Miami. Hopefully, Patrick Queen goes elsewhere for me, but there are some intriguing options available that I think could be great fits for this defense. I I have questions about his acumen defensively. Like the history as defensive coordinator, it's there, but it wasn't great. So I don't know if I should read too much into that. I know it wasn't a great situation in Houston. They were kind of decimated talent-wise when he got his opportunity, and he tried to do the best out of what he could. So trying to give him a mulligan there, and just hoping that he can, figure it out in Miami, and hopefully he learned some things that he felt he could have did better. So overall, we are excited about the hire and excited to see where it takes us, man. So appreciate you joining us and giving us a great insight on Mr. Weaver.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. Yeah, see, if he was coming from Houston to Miami, that would have been a little different. But I will give him the Ravens bump and say that him being there, I think, helped a couple of things. Maybe it was just how he sees the game or calls the play. So I'm excited for it.
Well, Kevin, hopefully we can get some of your guys. We got Zach Sealer for you, hitting him of the team. My guy, I'm the leader of the Sealer.
Any fullbacks? Any fullbacks?
Hey, we're listen.
Geno Stone.
All I'm gonna say is I'm open to any players you got. Any more fullbacks as well? I'll take them all.
They might move on from Patrick Ricard. Who knows? Maybe he'll come up to Miami. I know they got Alec Ingold made the Pro Bowl, so you know what?
I need two of them.
Two
fall for it,
sets,
man.
Baby. Run all the heavy sets you can. There you go.
Oh God.
Man, y'all let Kevin alone, man. Kevin, you gotta go on, brother.
Hey, Kev,
Thanks
I
so
appreciate
much,
it, man.
guys.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you guys for having me. Thanks so much.
All right,
Thank you, Kevin.
Yo, this football, this fullback agenda has to die.
Oh my God.
Hey, Chad, that was hey, Coach, that was a great audio.
I like the Darby. Hey, I like Darby though. I like Darby on the outside.
Yeah. I thought about that. I was gonna ask him about I think Mollett might be a free agent as well. Arthur Mollett. I think I saw that.
But listen, you talk about that linebacker
Likely gonna be a free agent?
Who?
The tight end Likely?
Likely.
No.
Nah? Damn.
Nah.
But we talk about remaking the linebacker room. You go get a couple of those linebackers plus one of those linebackers that we were looking at from Tampa last season, man. We might be shaking with something.
Nah, I like that Malik kid. He was talking about Malik Harrison. What he said?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Him and you go get that linebacker. What was it? White from?
Nah.
Is he done?
Devon White.
Devon White, nah.
Devin White or Levante Davis, one of those guys.
No. Devin White. Is he done? Does he got more in the tank?
No.
Yeah, he's like 26 years old, 25, 26.
Oh, go get that boy.
What I would do is get him and get Al Shazier and save money, dog.
But then, hold on. Like we said with the offensive line, then we need 3, we need 4. How many linebackers you bringing in? When we talk about remaking this whole core, how many guys you bringing in?
Well, the hope is that he could get something out of Tyndall in any type of role player depth piece kind of thing to maybe help fill that out. So you really, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying he's here. He's on the roster. Maybe you can get something from him, and then you add a piece or two to kind of go with that to supplement the loss of Duke Riley and Jerome Baker, depending on what they do there.
Listen. There's only one answer for linebackers. That's it. That's my guy. That's my guy.
Listen, you got the Oos at head coach. You know what I'm saying? What better scenario to add the Oos to lead the defense?
Bro.
To be that signal caller in the middle, to pair with David Long, to be that Terrell Suggs-like piece who can give you some money. What? I mean, a little bit around 10 million? Around 10 million? Around like 10 million?
Hey, that's Jerome money. I don't care.
Listen. Hey, we gonna call that Jerome money. Hey, we're not getting
you want Jerome
money,
or you want Frankie? Which one do you want?
I was told that he was a one-hit wonder. I was told he was a one-hit wonder.
Who told you that?
I was told he was a one-hit wonder.
Who told you that?
I said he was there. They try to cap him, that boy, man.
I'm just saying.
Hey,
I'm just saying.
Man, you guys spend too much time on this shit.
Hey, but listen. But listen, you talking about 11? That might be 8. That might be 8 Florida money.
That's
with these
true.
taxes.
Hey, listen. Hey, look, we probably taught a little something. You know what I'm saying?
I ain't
Hold
gonna
on, let me call Chris. Let me call Chris. I gotta call Chris. Hold on.
I think the question that needs to be answered first is if they're gonna keep Jerome Baker, restructure or whatever they decide to do with him, and then maybe you get some answers at linebacker. I think we got to kind of wait for some dominoes to fall, but I would say, I'd say peace out.
But let's stay right there. Tindall got to play this season at that point. Like, listen, I'm gonna play him just to see what we get. If it's egregious enough,
you gotta try to get something out of him, bro.
Hey, listen.
If it's egregious, we just got to know it.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not. If he's not, I know what you guys are gonna say, but if he's not it, I'm just not gonna.
Bro, just go get the quarterback, bro. Just go blitz. Look, just go run.
No,
run. Just run. Fill in gap. Just run.
Pass rusher. Yeah,
bro,
just run.
Bro,
Run. Go ahead.
Key words. Development. That word has. You didn't hear. You didn't hear with Vic Fangio. These guys weren't getting developed. All you hear from everybody we've spoken to about our coaches and our new, and specifically our new hires is development. We haven't had that in a long time. We had that with Butch Barry, and look what he did. Look what he did for the offensive line. So maybe it takes development, and maybe, you know what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. Oh man, we're gonna get our money's worth, but maybe we do. Maybe he does have talent, but we still have to add something to that. You have to. You go get the Ooze. You go get whoever you can. The kid from Tampa. You get 2 or 3 of them boys.
Listen, you go get me White from Tampa with Ooze with David Long.
Nah, he doing.
That's a lot of linebackers.
Yeah, exactly.
But
why not? Why we can't?
That is not gonna happen.
Exactly,
bro. Because there's a lot of linebackers, man.
I
gotta go get one in the draft, bro. You gotta combine birth philosophies going forth. You gotta continue to try to add impact pieces and develop. We gotta hit more on both sides of the coin.
But
I don't think it's a recipe to go in and say, hey, let's throw $15-20 million at the linebacker position. Meanwhile, you have X, Y, Z needs that need to be addressed as well. Like, I think there's a good opportunity to, with the developmental staff in place, you have a linebacker coach who has a history of developing talent. You bring in a guy to maybe stop gap it, or even if you want to, whatever the case may be, you want to supplement David Long because he does have some injury histories at time, maybe you can do something there.
So let me ask you this. You bring in Oos with David Long and Tindall. You satisfied with that?
Yeah. And I think you maybe go in the draft and bring in somebody late.
French, you can't bring Devin White and Latu and then David Long and expect that one of them, all 3 of them want to start.
Yeah, one of them's gonna be on the bench. Who are you gonna put on the bench? That's what I was trying to say.
You can't do it like that, big dog.
Hey, look, French, hear me out. This is why.
Bro, they always telling us what we can't do, bro.
This the Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs all over again.
No, look.
Oh, now y'all want Derrick. Now you see everybody talking about they want Derrick Henry though. All right, yeah, all right.
Hold on. What you got to understand is that Devin White and Latu, they're both going to command similar type of money. Now, if not the same, but close to the range. So you gotta spend your money correctly, bro. You go get one, you add something else via draft for you to act like a hidden gem. You bring a guy that we would just like the aforementioned by Kevin that might fit the mold of a Weaver or Barry. Barry might have his guys. So you gotta hit there and then draft another guy and hope that Tindall is something, because you're gonna have to replace David Long after this season because he's only signed through the season. So you gotta think future too. So our best bet is that Tindall shows flashes enough that you move on for any of these guys, or you draft it. You're gonna be having a draft or sign guys again. So are you gonna spend $20 million on 2 linebackers?
I mean, if you get a Frankie Luvo or Jordan Brooks or one of those guys, you could, again, I feel like you, at that point, you double back. If you want to double down the position, you got to do it later on in the draft.
But we said the
Ivan
same
Pace.
thing. We said the same thing about putting 15 mil in the running back room. And look what happened at the end of the season. I'm gonna put the 15 mil in the linebacker group, and at the end of the season, when we're in the playoffs, we're getting off the field on third down.
That's not how it works.
Okay. Oh, that's not how it works. Okay,
No,
got you.
no, that's not how it works. You get low. You get.
You're offensive guru, not the linebacker guru, sir. Thank you.
No. Oh my God!
Hey man,
Hey, by the
great
time,
show though.
by the time this is
Man,
done,
rocking with us.
hey, by the time this is done, French is gonna have.
Emotional damage.
He's so mad, bro. He wants to get two linebackers. Like, we don't
Bro,
understand.
we talked about offensive line, and y'all wanted to go get 4 offensive linemen. Y'all wanted to go get 4.
I cheap labor from the draft.
French.
Y'all wasn't talking about that no cheap labor.
French.
Y'all were talking to
It's
go
only
get
game.
Trader. Y'all don't get all these conversations.
What?
Oh, now y'all. Oh. Now nobody wanted to give Christian Wilkins 25. Bro, y'all is wild.
Yo,
This is
nobody,
wild.
Nobody wanted to pay this man 22, man. Get out of here.
Y'all
I'm
saying
giving-
15 mil, but listen, the Florida money might look a little different.
Oh
I'm
my
just
God,
saying.
bro.
Bro,
Well,
this
listen,
guy's
All
do-
right, I'm gonna chill.
What kind of
listen,
math?
bro.
What kind of math are we doing
Yo,
here, bro?
listen, you get the ooze, right? You get the ooze, and then you get a little son, you know what I'm saying? You draft a little son, or you get your little Ivan Pace or something, son. You feel me?
Okay, but then this is what I'm saying, Wally. You go get Oos, and
Mhm.
okay, yeah, we gonna draft, and we got Tyndall, but then like you said, like who knows how to, bro? Look, whoever
Hold
thought we
on,
was gonna
hold
get
on.
Ramsey?
Hold on.
No, you're right. You're right, French. You make good points, but you also need to address possibly defensive tackle. You may need to replace Van Ginkel. You know what I mean? You still may need to add something there depending on the timeline of your edge rushers. You have safety. Xavier Howard could possibly be moving on. You got a lot of needs. So to attack one specific area when there's a broad, amount of areas that need to be addressed, like I don't feel like it's smart or sound team building to say, hey, we're just gonna fix the linebackers and leave everything else to what?
But nobody's saying leave everything else. You're gonna still fix, and you can fix everything else. You're gonna fix. You're gonna restructure.
French, you can't allocate so much. French, you can't allocate so much money on one guy. You're talking about Devin White, who's gonna command something. You're talking about Latu, the Ooze, who's gonna command something. Luve. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Hey, hold on.
You got two. No, hold on. Y'all been talking, and French has been in the DeLorean. I need him to come back. Reel it back in, French. You need to reel it back in. You can't be spending all that money on these linebackers, and then one of them is not going to start, and you're going to have a disgruntled linebacker thinking he's going to start, and he's not. And then you got David Long, who's been the best linebacker for us this past season, and you're going to bring 2 of them. Does that make sense to you, French?
Hey, I got a good idea. Maybe you take one of those linebackers and play him at fullback.
Bro, that's what I was gonna say. You took it away from me.
So when Christian Wilkins lined up at fullback, y'all knew the scheme. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, now you want to talk about his versatility. Why is Sealer lined up at fullback? Why Sealer ain't lined up at fullback?
Yeah, where's Sealer at though?
Why Sealer ain't lined up at fullback? I ain't getting no touches in the red zone.
Y'all acting like Playboy Cardi. Y'all over here acting like Playboy Cardi, boy. Y'all trying to steal money and walk off.
Let me ask
Yeah,
you
I'm done, man.
Who's your starting offense outside linebacker? Week 1.
Who me?
Yeah. Right now, who we starting?
David Long. That's who we
outside linebacker.
Outside, bro.
But are you talking about with the guys I'm talking about?
Oh my God! No, he doesn't have his list. He doesn't have his list ready.
No, we're talking about right now with Chubb and Phillips possibly being injured. Who you starting?
We're gonna have to go get guys. We're gonna have to go get
yeah.
guys.
So how you gonna pay linebackers?
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness. So we ain't got no money.
No, we do. But bro, you trying to spend it all at middle linebacker.
Exactly. So where are you gonna get it from?
I want to go to some other sections. I want to see what they got at cornerback. You know what I'm saying?
Inside linebackers, middle linebackers, like everywhere. The DBs, middle linebackers. That's where you want to put the money.
We might want a little tight end. Can I get a little Hunter Henry? You know what I'm saying?
Can I get a little
Noah Fant?
Can I get a
little Gerald Everett? You know what I'm saying?
I bet not hear y'all.
TJ Gardner?
I bet not hear y'all say nothing about the linebacker core in the offseason.
You
come on, man.
All the money in one thing, bro. You want to go buy shoes. So you want to buy shoes, no socks. You want to buy shoes, no socks? No outfits for the shoes?
If I got the loafers, we talk to me.
Listen. When you got a Barry on staff, like we did for the offensive line, we went and got a Barry for the defense. When you got berries on the staff, like these berries, they got the innate ability to be able to develop, cook, and stew up something real nice and put something real nice together. These guys have a track record. The berries, Barry and Barry, Joe Barry, Butch Barry, developmental gurus, able to extract the utmost talent out of each and every individual in their position groups, man. These guys are keepers, man. And when you have guys like this, you don't worry about stacking and overflow. You trying to do too much, man. There's no need. There's no need for the overkill. There's no need.
Just cook, baby. Just cook. You ain't in the kitchen, bro.
But y'all was about to get
tranquilo.
But y'all was about to give Christian Wilkins $25 million.
Yo, why you keep saying Christian Wilkins?
Now y'all don't know him. Now y'all Kiki Palmer.
Oh yeah.
Hey, coach, download that Kiki Palmer audio. I don't know that man, and I wouldn't know him if I seen him on the street.
We not doing that.
Now they Kiki Palmer and they don't know Christian Wilkins.
Now you want to hedge.
He was sleeping on their futon. Now they okay. I got you.
If it's not two fullbacks, he talking about Christian Wilkins. That's all you got. Like, come on, son.
Hey, I'm all about trench warfare, bro. I don't know what y'all on. Y'all can keep with the little fancy boy South Beach persona.
I'm waiting on your list, bro.
How many trenches you trying to get when you allocating all that damn money into the damn linebackers?
There won't be any money.
Hey, French, how you in the trenches when you wearing Jimmy Choos? Yo, what the Jimmy Choos in the trenches? You ain't in the Timbs. You ain't in the. You out here in the Jimmy in the boat shoes. You got boat shoes on, talking about the trenches.
What?
You ain't got no cackalackers on. You ain't got no Reeboks on. You talking about?
Oh my God!
You ain't got no Buffalinos on. You ain't got no Hush Puppies on. You out here in them pretty boy shoes, man. Pretty boy.
Hold on. Don't play with me. I keep them. I keep them things. I keep them Timbs, son. This trench warfare, bro. Trench warfare.
Man,
every day we need to be wearing all off season. I'm wearing boots to training camp. I'm wearing boots to training camp like I'm a Q. Tell the Qs to meet me. Now I'm tripping, but I'm wearing boots.
Hey.
Yeah, that boy.
Hey, I'm tripping. I'm tripping.
Hey, can you pass the physical? You might need you at DB.
Hey, you better be careful. Drewski made that video about the Qs, but it was on him.
It was on to that, boy. You better be careful now.
Oh man. All right, man. I'm gonna take us out. Here we go. Anytime soon, we'll be able to.
Let's go buy a fullback in church.
Come on,
give me $50 million in the linebacker room.
You gotta pay your time, bro. You gotta pay your time.
They'll want to win.
Let's go. Trench warfare.
Trench warfare, baby.
Hey, man.
Hey, I get another fullback for 1.2. Don't play.
Hey, man, shout out to everybody. Thanks for all the viewers. Thanks for the guests. It was awesome. Another excellent episode of Inside Leverage. And thank you all for joining us. We're not done. We got plenty of stuff coming throughout the offseason as we get amped up for the 2024 season.